Hello guys, welcome to my very first video for section 2 on how to set up the virtual machine or the virtual environment that we are going to be using. And for this course you can either have a Windows device or you can have a Linux device. It doesn't really matter what OS you are going to be using because the software that we are going to be using are going to work for either Linux OS and even a Mac, but I'm going to be using a Linux Ubuntu OS for this journey, so it shouldn't matter what OS you are having because, like I said, the software that we're going to be using are going to work across any OS. So the first thing that you need to do is that we need to go ahead and download the Ubuntu server. The Ubuntu server is what we are going to be using for this privilege escalation. And let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and search for Ubuntu. Ubuntu server. It is the Ubuntu server download. So you want to download the ISO. So right here, I'm also going to leave a link on this video so you can go ahead and download it. So you don't even have to search for it. There you go. You can go to either see alternative downloads. Let's see what they have. So we want to download the. Let's go ahead and download the server 64-bit for Ubuntu. There we go. So this is for the torrent. Never mind, we don't want a torrent. Okay, so look at that. That's the incorrect one. Download the network installer. There we go. This one. No. Do a nano. Let's go ahead and just go standard downloads. That's fine. And Ubuntu server. Let's just go ahead and go back to the main. So if you go to ubuntu.com/download/server, you can go ahead and download it from here. You need to make sure that it is the Ubuntu server because that's what we are going to be working on. We are not going to be using the Ubuntu desktop. It's the Ubuntu server. You can see right here, I am downloading the 64-bit one, that ISO. Making sure that is the ISO, and you want to go ahead and save it. Everything goes to my downloads. It is right now downloading. So that is great. Another thing that you need to have to download and install is VirtualBox. So VirtualBox download, just search for VirtualBox download. And over here, downloads, I'm also going to add the link for this so you can go ahead and download it. You can see right here, it works for Windows, OS X, so for Mac, Linux, and Solaris also. We can do it. I have a Ubuntu Linux device, so I would go ahead and download this one and install it. You can also install it from the CLI. A lot easier if you know how to do that from the CLI of Linux. You can go ahead and do that for Windows host, Mac OS. You can go ahead and pick whatever you want. So after you go ahead and download the VirtualBox, go ahead and install it, and also go ahead and download the server. But before you start the next video, make sure that you have the VirtualBox installed and that you have the Ubuntu server downloaded into your computer. Hello, in this video we are going to be setting up the Ubuntu server with the VirtualBox. Like I said before on the previous video, we downloaded the Ubuntu server and we also downloaded the VirtualBox, and I told you to install the VirtualBox before installing or before starting this video. If you haven't done so, go ahead and pause the video and install the VirtualBox. But if you haven't installed, go ahead and keep going with this video. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to go to new, and we want to create a new VM. So we're going to name, it's going to be the type of Linux, and it's going to be Ubuntu 64-bit. And we're going to call this, you can call it whatever you want. I want to call it Ubuntu server. Press next. You want to give it at least 2 gigabytes so it can move a little bit faster. If you can't, you should be able to do it with just 1 gigabyte. That should be fine. But since I have plenty, I'm going to give it 2. We are going to create a virtual hard disk now. We're going to select that default one. Go ahead and create, and we are going to select the VHD, so the one in the middle. Next, we are going to leave this as the default. Next, Ubuntu server, let's go ahead and give it at least let's go ahead and give it 16 just in case you want to do something else. Create, but you can keep the defaults if you want to. So now let's go ahead and start this VM, and it's going to ask you for the ISO that we downloaded. So you're going to press this and we're going to search for it. And here we go. Ubuntu live server AMD 64 bits .iso. That's the one that we want to do. Go ahead and press start. And that is going to start that Ubuntu server. And we are going to install that ISO in this as a virtual machine in VirtualBox. So let's go ahead and give it a couple seconds. It is going to do some checks. It didn't find any errors, so that's great. So let's just go ahead and give it a couple seconds for it to finish doing the checks. And there we go. After it is ready to install, it is going to run. It is going to start right here. So if you want to start, if you want to select your language, English from UK, Espanol, French, whatever you want to pick, you can go ahead and pick. I'm going to select English. The layout, everything, I'm going to leave everything as default. That's how I want my keyboard. Done. The next one is asking me for an IP. We are going to do a separate video and we can talk about that. Let's go ahead and leave this as default for now. So let's just go ahead and do done. Proxy, we are not going to use any proxy, so let's go ahead and press done. Mirror address, that's fine, you can leave it as default as well. Done. We are going to select to use the entire setup. This we are going to select both of them just a default. We're not going to encrypt the LVN group, so let's go ahead and press done. So everything is a default over here, and over here let's just select done again and selecting continue. Yep, that's fine. Let's go ahead and press continue. Let's go ahead and give it a name. Let's go ahead and name this Miguel Sano. Server's name, let's go ahead and call it Ubuntu. Pick a username, Miguel. Password, just pick a password, whatever you want. I'm going to create a weak password and it's going to tell me that it is weak, so that's fine. If you want to install SSH, I do want to do that because I'm going to be SSH. I'm going to open an SSH connection between my Ubuntu machine. This is my host and this VM. Okay, so let's go ahead and select that. We are not going to do any imports. So let's go ahead and press done. And if you want to install more stuff for this server, like DAC L, if you want to install Google Cloud SDK, you can install all of that, but we are not really going to be using any of that, so I'm not going to install it. Press done. And now it is going to install the installation, and it shouldn't take that long. Maybe takes like a minute or two. Also depends how much RAM you gave it, but it shouldn't take that long. So let's go ahead and wait for this to be done. And after it's done, it should ask you to reboot. So let's go ahead and reboot. And it shouldn't take that long for it. It failed to unmount CD-ROM. Okay. There we go. Let's go ahead and make it. If you make it bigger. Okay. Let's go ahead and wait to start. It is right now running. And it is trying to start. So let's go ahead and wait for that. It shouldn't take that long. And there we go. It is done. Rebooting right now. So let's go ahead and press X. And it should ask you to log in. So the username that I set up to still trying to run. Okay, should be, I guess it should be done. So the username was Miguel, and the password, let's see if it lets me log in. There we go. So I am logged in into my Ubuntu server. So this is it for this video. On the next video, we are going to set up the network so we are able to connect to the server from my desktop into that VM. Okay, so in this video, we are going to install the network tool. So we are able to do the ifconfig, and the ifconfig basically lets you see what is the IP on your virtual machine. So if you do this command over here that I have, sudo apt install nettools, it's going to let you do the commands that I'm going to be running. So just go ahead and press enter, and I have it already installed. So let's go ahead and just do that first before you start this video. So after that, you should be able to do a if config. If you can't see because it is too small, let's see if I can make it bigger. View. Okay, scale screen. It won't let me do that. Devices. All right, let's go ahead and just make it bigger. No, it won't do that. Let's go ahead and do, let's see, view, scale, switch. All right, so that should be fine. There we go. That should be good. So here's the ifconfig. It's a command. If you wanted to install the network tools, it's sudo apt install nettools. If you want to see your IP address, you do the ifconfig. So let's go ahead and do ifconfig again. And here we go. So you can see that we have an IP address of 10.0.2.15. Okay, so that is the IP address of this virtual machine. So if I go into my desktop and I try to do ifconfig too, we are going to see that we are not in the same network. So here's my private IP address, 192.168.1.128. So it's not the same private IP address. So I need to get this virtual machine in the same IP address as I am. And in Windows device, you want to open the command prompt and you want to do ipconfig. That's the command for the Windows device, ipconfig. Okay. So the way to do that is that we need to change the network in the virtual machine. So let's go ahead and try it. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and first just power off this device. All right, so we are going to go right click on it. We are going to go to settings. We are going to go to network, and right now it's using NAT. I don't want it to use NAT. I wanted to use the bridge adapter, and I wanted to use, for this Windows people, for this Linux people, I wanted to use my my car of ENP3S0. So that's the one that I wanted to use. If you want to do promiscuous mode, let's go ahead and just allow all as well. There we go. And for your Windows device, it's probably going to do bridge. It should be the same bridge adapter. And just select either, if you're on Wi-Fi, you want to select your Wi-Fi card, or if you are connected via Ethernet cable, then you want to select the Ethernet one. For me, it's going to be the ENP3S0. For my Linux device, it could be different if you have the same Linux device. Just make sure that you want to be on the same network as your private network at home. Okay, press OK. Now let's go ahead and start this Ubuntu machine. Do not show this again, switch. And let's go ahead and keep my command line over here, making sure that it is going to be in the same network. And if it is on the same network, I should be able to ping this virtual machine. And if I'm able to ping this virtual machine, I should be able to SSH into this virtual machine. And the reason why I'm doing SSH is because I'm going to be able to copy and paste doing it from my desktop. Because if I do it straight from this Ubuntu, this virtual box, it won't let me to copy and paste. All right, so let's go ahead and log in. Username Miguel, my password. There we go. Let's do ifconfig, and here we go. So now the IP address looks like it is 192.168.1.149. So it looks like we are in the same network. So let's go ahead and try to ping 192.168.1.149. And I should be able to ping 192.168.1.149. There we go. So we have a ping. So we are in the same network, as you can see. That is great. So now I should be able to SSH into this Ubuntu server, and then we don't need to do anything from this VirtualBox, only to just turn it on and then SSH from my desktop, right? So if you do SSH for my desktop, you can also, if you are using Windows, you can use PuTTY, or you can also use the command line if you have Windows 10. One of the versions, I think it has SSH enabled from the command prompt. So you can do the same command over here, SSH. Then you want to give it the username that we used to log into the Ubuntu server. Then we do the @ sign, and then we provide the IP address where we want to remote to, which is for me 192.168.1.149. It's going to ask me if I want to accept this key. Let's say yes. Password, the same password that I used to log in into Miguel, and there we go. We have remoted into the Ubuntu server, so we don't need to use the VirtualBox anymore. We can just leave it running, and we can use our desktop to continue with the videos. Hello, in this video we are going to be setting up bad permissions for the password file. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want you to show you where it's coming from, where this exploit comes from. So I want you to explain you guys how it happens and you know why it happens. So the first thing that we're going to do is that since Miguel has the root, it has root access, we want to create another user that has no root access. So you can see how we can do an escalation from a user who has no root access or no admin access. So let's go ahead and do a sudo. Sudo means that we are going to use admin permissions, right? So, and the command for this is user add, and we are going to be adding a user. The name or the username of this user is going to be just user. So sudo means that we are going to use admin rights, which Miguel has because he's in the root group, and also we are going to do this command, which is user add, to create a new user. Press enter. Let's go ahead and enter the password for Miguel. Done. So we have added a new user by adding sudo user add, and then to create a password for that user, we can just do a sudo passwd. Yes, so sudo, and then we can do just user, and that's going to create a new password for that user. Enter the password, repeat the password, and there we go. So we have successfully created a user called user, and we also created a password, right? And we use the sudo, which is telling the Ubuntu server that we're using admin permissions, and we use this command to create a new user add. Then we did the SUDO again, telling Ubuntu that we're going to use admin rights and password or passwd, telling that we are going to create a new password for that user. And there we go. It let me do that because I do have admin rights and I'm able to do such thing. Okay, so after that has been done, what we need to take a look at is at the permission for the password file. And the password file is where the users are stored. So that's where all the users are stored. And sometimes you can even find passwords inside this password file. That's why it needs to be protected with the permissions. And the way that you can see the permissions of such file is by doing an ls-l, and then you want to go to the password file by going like that. You press enter, and that's going to give you the permission. So right now you can see that the user, the person that created this, has only read and write, and the group has read, and everybody else has read access only. So the root right now is the only person who has access. And let me go ahead and show you a picture so you can take a look at how these permissions are done. So over here, and the way that we change the permission is by doing a chmod, and you can see how the permissions goes. So you can see that the password file has the read RW for the user, and then for the group it only has R. So if that whatever that person belongs to, the group that belongs to, only has read access, so it's only able to read. And then anybody else, any other user, is also able to read it, but it's not able to execute, or it's not able to write to that file. Now if you want to change this, since you are the admin, you can go ahead and just give it a read, write, and execute for everybody else, and that's how this private escalation is going to take place. right? You can see right here, RWX, and it means that we gave 7 to the first one, which is a user, 7 to the group right here, and another 7 to the W, and then we are going to provide the file. Now, if you just want the user to have read and write and execute, and the group to have read and write and execute, then you can do a 775. If you want, just give a 755, which is just read and write and execute for the user who created the file, and just read and execute for that group, and also read and write and execute for everybody else, then you can have a 755, and then you give it the file name which you want to change that permission to, and you can see how this is done. And you can see that for the, you can put it right here, and you can see for the etc password, for the password file, you can see that they gave it a RWRR, which means that the owner, the user, the owner of the file, which is a root, is able to write and read. So we can change it by being the root, right? And you can see also how, down here, how the numbers are done. And what we're going to be doing is we are going to be changing this the permission so anybody can read and write and execute. So we are going to give it a 777. So we're going to do a chmod 777, and then we are going to specify the etc password. So that's how it happens. You know, sometimes people do it by accident, or they just I don't know, right? you never know how it happens, but it could happen. So if you do a you want to do a sudo chmod, and we're going to give it a rewrite and execute for the owner, and then we're going to give it a rewrite and execute for the group of the owner, and then we are going to give it a rewrite and execute for anybody else, so anybody else can do that. So we are going to specify the file now, and the file is going to be etc password. There we go. So that has been changed. And now if you do another ls -l etc passwd, now you can see now that the user who created the file has read, write, and execute, and then you can see that the group of that user also has read, write, and execute, and you can see down here that anybody else is going to be able to read, write, and execute this file. Now if you want to see the group where the user belongs to, the user that we created, which we just named it a user, it doesn't have root access. So before, the user was not going to be able to write to this password file. It was only going to be able to read it, so that we were going to be able to read it. But now, since we changed the permissions to read, write, and execute, now this one right here, this user right here, is going to be able to read, write, and execute, and then it can be able to modify this password file, and it's going to be able to do a privilege escalation by creating a new user and giving it root access, and that's how your system can get compromised. So if you do, let's say we can do to take a look at what groups each user belongs to. What you could do is not a cat. We need to do just groups. If we do groups and we see user, you can see that this user does not belong to any groups. But if you say groups root or roots groups root, you can see that the root the root belongs to the root group, right? But if you do a groups Miguel, you're going to see that Miguel has access to the SUDO, which means that he has admin access. He has access to the CD-ROM, ADM, DIP, and all of that. So therefore, if we create a new user, if we go ahead and create a new user by editing this file over here using nano, we can do a privilege escalation, which is what we are going to be doing on the next video. What we're going to be doing is we are going to log in as user, which has no groups or anything, but he has read, write, and execute for this file, which we are going to be modifying and creating. We are going to be modifying this file, and we are going to be able first to either change the password or Miguel to get access to Miguel's account, which he's an admin, or we can go ahead and change the password for root and just log in with root, or we can also create a new user and give it root access. So that's what those three privilege escalation is what we are going to be doing on the next upcoming videos. Hello, in this video we are going to do a privilege escalation by basically editing the password file. And what we're going to be doing is that we are going to create a hashed password and we are going to add it into the root user. So right now we are logging as Miguel. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to log in as the user that we created and we name it user. And the way that you change, basically the way that you change users is by going SU, and then you specify the user that you want to go to, which is user, and you need to specify the password. There we go. So we are in the user. So now what we need to do is that we need to first try to do a su root to see if we are able to get into the root to change and see if we are able to log in as a root. Let's provide a password. So we are unable to get into the root. So now what we want to do is let's go ahead and take a look at the password file, which is etc passwd, and you can see that we have read, write, and execute, read, write, and execute, and read, write, and execute for anybody. So that means that me as a user, as login as user, I'm going to be able to edit this password file and change the password for the root user, and we are going to be able to log in as the root user. You can see that we were unable to authenticate, but after we change the password, we are going to be able to authenticate. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and create a basically a hashed password. And the way that you do that is by doing open SSL, and you do passwd, and you can then specify the password that you want to add to it. So let's go ahead and say hacked123, and that's going to give you a hashed password. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and copy it. So now since we find out that we have read, write, and execute access to this password file, we can go ahead and replace the password that the root user has with this hash password, which decrypted means hacked123. So now the way that you are able to edit this is by using nano, and you can do nano. Basically it's a text editor, and that's what we are going to be using. And you can do our nano and then specify the file that you want to open, and this is going to open a file, and since we have read, write, and execute access to it, we are going to be able to edit this. So let's go ahead and go to nano, and you can see right now that we can see all the users in here. And if you want to know how all of this doesn't really make sense for you, but I'm going to show you a picture so it can make more sense to you. So here we are. So let's go ahead and take a look at root. So right now the first one, which is the number one, is basically the username, right? And then we have number two, which is the X. We can see it over here. It's basically the password, which has a X characters indicate that the password is encrypted, and it is stored in the etc shadow file, which we are going to also be doing a privilege escalation for that shadow file. So we are going to be able to replace this X with the hashed password, the encrypted password that we created. So the third one is basically the user ID. Each user must be assigned a user ID, so that's why it has a user ID. The user ID is 0 for the root. Then we have the group ID for number 4. Then we have the user ID info for number 5, and then number 6 is the home directory, and number 7 is the command shell. So that's how it goes down. So the first one is a user. The first X is a password, encrypted password, which is stored in shadow, in the shadow file. The number 3 is just the user ID, and then number 4 is the group ID. Then we have the user ID info for the root, and then we have the home directory, and then we have the command shell. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to be replacing the password, that we are going to be replacing that X character with the encrypted password that we created, right? So if you do a Control X, and this is the encrypted password that we created, go ahead and copy it, and we are going to go back to nano etc password. Oh, that's not how it is. Sorry for that. Nano etc passwd. There we go. So we are going to go ahead and delete the X, paste it in here. There we go, making sure that the colon is there, and then we are going to press Control X, and then we are going to say Y and press Enter. So now we should be able to log into the root by doing a su root, and we are going to specify the password that we encrypted, which is hacked123, because remember we replaced the X for this encrypted password. So if you do hacked123, now I am log in as the root, and the root user is Miguel. So now I have root access to this server, and I should be able to do whatever I want. So this is how this privilege escalation goes. It's just by, you know, replacing the X with this encrypted password that we created, and then we were able to log in as the root of this Ubuntu server. So that's how it goes down. On the next video, we are going to change the password for Miguel, and we are going to log in as Miguel, and then we are going to create a new user and just going to give it root access so we can do whatever we want in this server. Hello guys, in this video we are going to do another privilege escalation. So what we're going to be doing is, instead of just editing or changing the password of the root users, what we're going to be doing is that we are going to basically add our own user, and we are just going to give it the same permissions of the other user. So for this instance, we are going to be using Miguel's. So therefore, what we're going to be doing first, we will have to go to su user, and the reason why we're going to su user is because he has no privilege. It is a user that has no privilege at all, and the only privilege or permission that it has basically is to edit the password file. And that way, since we're able to edit the password file from this user that has nothing else but to be able to edit this, and then that's how we're doing this privilege escalation. So the first thing that we want to do is that, let's see, we want to let's do, so we change it to the user. Now we are, if we do a who am I, you can see that we are, the current user is the user. That's just, I just name it the same, right? I should have just named it something else, like Carlos or something. But I created a user account and just name it user. Okay, so now what we want to do is that we want to go ahead and create an open SSL password. So we want to create another password, and this password is going to be 123456. That should be good. So let's go ahead and create that encrypted password. Let's go ahead and copy it. So what we want to do now is basically I'm going to open a text editor. So my text editor that I'm going to be opening is going to be LivePad. You can open any Word document or whatever you want to do, just a text editor. And I want to go ahead and add my encrypted password over here. I'm going to move it to my other screen. So since we have done this, the next step that I would like to do is to find out what the user Miguel has in the password file. So one way to do this is by doing cat. Basically what cat does is just displays everything inside a file. So if we do cat etc passwd, it shows everything there is in this specific file. So we see everything there is in this file. So there's a lot of stuff. You can see Miguel, so we can just go ahead and copy it from here. But another easy way, or a clean way to do this, is by doing a cat passwd. So basically right now what we're doing is we are going to do a cat to display. If we press enter, it's going to display the same list again. But I want to clean this list, and what I want to do is do a grep. Grep is basically going to search for a specific word that we are going to specify. So I want to search for Miguel, and I want you to display Miguel. So there we go. It display Miguel's line over here. So what we did was, I want you to show me what is inside this password file, but I just want you to look for Miguel's line, and you can see it only display Miguel's line. So let's go ahead and copy it. Great. So what we want to do, let's go ahead and open the text editor. You can see that we have that encrypted password 123456. Let's go ahead and paste Miguel's line from the password file. And what we're going to be doing is we are just going to copy it. We are just going to replace this right here with this encrypted password, which is 123456, and we are going to create basically a new user, right? Let's go ahead and say new Miguel. So it is a new Miguel, and then we are going to leave everything as default, right? We are going to use Miguel's. We are basically going to use Miguel's profile, but the username that we're going to be using is new Miguel to do this. So we can just go ahead and delete that encrypted password, new Miguel. So now we are going to just go ahead and copy this, and what we want to do is we want to add this to the password file. So if you do now a nano, so we can edit that password file, etc passwd. Okay, then we are going to go all the way to the end, and we are going to go ahead and paste this over here. So what is this going to do? Well, let's go ahead and bring basically this picture over here. We can see Miguel all the way at the bottom. So the first line is the username. So we specify that we're going to use this username as new Miguel, right? New Miguel. Then number 2 is the password. So the password that we encrypted, hashed that 123456. Then we have number 3, which is what is it? Number 3 is the user ID. So we are going to use Miguel's user ID. Okay. So we are going to be logging as new Miguel, but we are basically going to be using Miguel's user ID. So we are going to have the same privilege. And then number 4 is the group ID. So we are going to be using Miguel's group ID. So we are going to be able to do anything Miguel is able to do. So you can do it like that, or you can even, right? So we're going to have access to everything Miguel has if we do it like this. Or what you could do is, if you go to the root user, you can just go ahead and copy it as a root user and do the same account as the root user. So even though, let's go ahead and just, am I able to, let's go ahead and do another, but we are going to go ahead and remove everything. So we are going to call it new root, and we are going to go ahead and copy everything over here all the way to this dot. Copy it. We are going to go all the way to the bottom, and we are going to paste it over here. All right, so let's go ahead and delete this tool. So right now we are going to create a new Miguel, which is going to basically copy Miguel, and then we are going to create a new root, which is basically going to mimic the root, right? So whenever we do a who am I for this user, whenever we log into this user, oh, I forgot to add the password. So let's go ahead and add this password over here. So we have making sure, if we take a look at this picture, we can see 1, 2. So we need to go ahead and add an X over here. So if we do it like this, and then add the copy this same password 123456 for both of them. There we go. So we are going to be logging in as Miguel. We are going to use Miguel's profile if we use new Miguel. If we log in as new root, we are going to be using the root user. So let's go ahead and do a Control X to exit, and then a Y to save it, and then enter to be done. Now if I do a su to change the username and do new Miguel, and if you log in with the 123456 password, now we're able to log in as Miguel. As you can see right now, even though we specify that we are logging in as new Miguel, we're still going into Miguel's account, because we basically mimic, right, everything there is in Miguel's account. We just specify a new username, but we are using the same home directory and all of that, and bash and shell account and all of that. So we are logging as using the username new Miguel, but since we're using Miguel's directory and user ID and group ID, then we are logging in as Miguel, basically, right? If you do a who am I, it's going to tell you that you are Miguel. There we go. Now if you do a su new root, we enter 1 2 3 4 5 6 because we did the same password. You can see right now that we are logging in as root. If we do a who am I, it is going to tell you that you are the root, even though you log in as root. So this is how another way that you can basically do a privilege escalation, right? If you don't want to use the same accounts, you can just create your own account and just mimic the accounts that have admin access or root access, and even create a new account and mimic what the root account has in there. So that's how you are able to do privilege escalation. So how will you secure this password file so it doesn't get exploited with a privilege escalation? Well, let me go ahead and show you the picture again. Which one will you pick? Will you pick 777? No, because that's the one that it currently has. Will you do a 775? Yeah, but not really. You can still do it if you are able to execute. If anybody else is able to execute, will you do a 755? I wouldn't do 755. What about 664? Yeah, but the group, if somebody by accident gets access to the same root as the one that created this file, then they're going to be able to do that as well. The best possible way is to give those files that you don't want anybody access to it but the root or whoever created this file, is by giving it a 644. So you want to change the permission by doing a chmod 644 and then specify what you want to do or the file that you want to point at. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to show you how to not allow anybody to read, write, and execute. So what you want to do is, you are the root, right? You are the admin of this Ubuntu server. What you want to do is let's do a chmod 644. 644 meaning that read and write is going to be for that, that the admin is going to be for the person who created the file or the root user. The group is only going to be able to read it, and anybody else is only going to be able to read it. So 644 is the best possible way that you can give it. So let's go ahead and do 644 and specify basically that file. So passwd, enter. So now if we log in as SUID user, right, it doesn't ask you for a password because we are coming from a higher, or we're coming from the user, so from the root account, so it won't ask you for the password. So now if you do a ls -l etc passwd, you can see now that the only person able to read and write is going to be the user. So me as a user, we basically no groups, we no access, no permission, we won't be able to edit this. So if we do a nano etc passwd, okay, so let's go ahead and what we're going to be doing, let's go ahead and you do anything in here, and if you do a control X to exit and Y to save it, it won't let you do it because it says it right here, permission denied. We don't have access to write, we only have access to read it. We don't have access to write, so therefore we shouldn't be writing to this. So you can just do an X and then no, so it's not going to save it. So now this privilege escalation is not going to work because the only person allowed to read and write to this file, it is the root user. Hello guys, in this video I am going to give you guys a challenge. So right now what we are going to be doing is, first of all, we are going to, I'm in the Miguel user. Miguel user has user admin, right? He's a root account. So Miguel is a root account right now. So the first thing that I want to do is what you guys should do, let's go ahead and do sudo chmod. So we did that. We changed already the permission on the password file. So let's go ahead and do an ls first to make sure that we did that. Yeah, we did that on the previous video. So let's go ahead and do that. Etc password. Okay, so now as you can see, so the root user has the read and write. The group only has read, and everybody else has read access. Okay, so that is great. Now, what I want you to do is go into, I don't know if you name this Miguel or whatever you name it, whenever you configure your Ubuntu server. What I want you to do is go into that user and do a SUDO CHMOD etc, and instead of password we are going to do group. Enter the password for that user. So let's see. Okay, oh, we forgot to specify, so 777. So what we are doing now is that we are changing this permission to the owner has read and write access and execute access, and the group has read, write, and execute, and anybody else has read, write, and execute to this group. So if you do a ls -l etc group, so there you go. It has the owner, whoever created this, the root has read-write access, the group has read-write access, and anybody else that read, write, and execute access to this etc group. So what I want you to do is go ahead and log in as the SUID user, which has it only has access basically to this file. So what I want you to do is, before you see my my next video, is go ahead and try to do a privilege escalation, right? Go ahead and see if you could do a privilege escalation just by editing this file called group. If you're able to do it, that's great. If you cannot do it, just go ahead and watch my next video, and I'm going to show you how to do a privilege escalation whenever everybody has read, write, and execute access to this file. So please go ahead and pause this video and try to do a read, write, or try to do a privilege escalation to this file that we have read, write, and execute access to it. Remember, the user that we created, which we are logged into right now. So if you do who am I, it tells you that you are the user, and this user basically does not have any really any access. If you do a groups user, you can see that we are in the user group, so we don't really have anything. So we cannot really do a lot because we're not in basically any groups. But if the group file has read and write access, you should be able to do a privilege escalation. So like I said before you go ahead and watch my next video, just stop this video right now and try to do a privilege escalation on this file. Let's see how you do it. Tell me how you do it before you watch my next video, because I'm going to show you how you're able to do a privilege escalation on the file, on the group file. So go ahead and pause this video right now and go ahead and do it. If you cannot do it, if you get stuck, that's fine. We are here to learn. Just go ahead and watch my next video, and I'm going to show you how to do that. In this video, we are going to go over what a group file is. And a group file is a text file which defines the groups to which users belong under Linux and Unix operating systems. Under Linux, multiple users can be categorized into groups. It stores group information or defines the group that basically defines the groups to which users belong to. And there's one entry per line, and each line has the following format, which I'm going to show you right now. So here's how the format is. Number one right now, that is the group name, and it's a group name. If you run the ls -l command, you will see this name printed in the group field. And then the other one, which is separated by a colon, Number 2 is the X, which is the password. There's an instance where you can basically create a password for a group, and this is useful to implement privilege groups. Then we have number 3, which is the group ID. So it's just the ID of that group. And then we have number 4, which is the group list, and this is where the list of usernames who are the members of the group right here. So if we have read and write access to this file, what you want to do is you want to add your user to the list next to the group name that you want to belong to, so you can do a privilege escalation. And that's what we are going to be doing on the next video. And if you figured out the challenge from the previous video, all you needed to do is just put your name or your username right next to by opening this file in with Nano with a text editor. And if you put your name next to the group that you want to belong to, let's say like the SUDO group, the SUDO group basically gives you admin access. So if you want to, have access to everything, what you want to do is just put your name or your username right next to the user group, and we're going to be doing that. I'm going to show you that privilege escalation on the next video. So in this video, we are going to exploit the group file because it has incorrect permission. Somebody changed the permission and gave access to everybody to rewrite and execute. Let's go ahead and take a look at that and see if it is still there. You want to do a ls -l etc group. So here we go. We don't have rewrite and execute, so let's go ahead and just do it out right now. So the way that you do that, chmod 777 etc group. So it won't let me do that. Let's go ahead and do a sudo 1 2 3 4 5 6. That is my password. Yep. Or not. There we go. Okay. So now if you do again a ls -l etc group, you can see that the rewrite and execute for this group is for everybody. So anybody will be able to edit this file. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating another new user. So let's go ahead and do sudo add user. We are going to name it Carlos. So there we go. The password for Carlos, it is going to be whatever you want to give it. Repeat it again. There we go. If you want to enter a full name, let's get Carlos Delgado. Room number, nothing. Work, nothing. Home, nothing. Enter. Is this information correct? Press Y. There we go. So now if you do su and go into Carlos, so that is the way that you log into a different user. So su Carlos and enter the password for Carlos that we just created. There we go. Now if you do cd, let's just go to over here. And now if you do you can see right now that we are logged in as Carlos, right? If you do a who am I, it tells you that you are Carlos. If you want to see the groups that Carlos belong to, groups Carlos, you can see that we only belong to the group Carlos, which has no privilege, no admin access, nothing. We can't even SSH into it. So now, since if you do an ls -l, let's see if it is still there, etc group, you can see now there's a good something good that happened. So the rewrite and execute went away, or it's not there because we executed it before Carlos was created. So therefore we are not going to be able to do that. So what you need to do before you want to practice this is that you want to create the user first, and then you want to change the permission. So we have to go back to Miguel, enter Miguel's password, and then you want to go ahead and do a chmod 777. Specify which one you want to change it to. That. Oh, I always forget. You want to do the sudo. There you go. Now, if you go back to su and you go back to Carlos, you can say who am I? Carlos. The groups that Carlos belong to. Carlos belongs to just the Carlos group. So now if you do an ls -l etc and say group, there we go. Now you can see that we have read, write, and execute for this group file. So now we should be able to edit this group file because we have read, write, and execute for everybody, even if you're not in any other groups. And the way they do that, let's go and do nano etc group, and then from here you can add your name next to whatever group you want. As you can see, Miguel is part of the root. It's also part of the ADM. Miguel is part of the CD-ROM, dip, sudo, backup, and all of that. So what I want to do is I want to add this user to be part of SSH, so we are able to SSH into this machine, so we can gain remote access, so we don't have to be physically present in this computer. So I want to add it next to SSH. So SSH, let's just go ahead and add Carlos to it. Okay, just like that, just add the username, do Control X, Y, enter. So now what we could do now is let's go ahead and do exit, so we can exit out of here and exit again and exit again, exit. There we go. So I have logged out of my Ubuntu. So now I want to SSH back in, and not as Miguel anymore. I want to SSH as Carlos, which has no access, but we just barely gain access to the SSH group, so we should be able to SSH now. And there we go. So now we added Carlos into the SSH group. So now from here, what you could do is you can add Carlos to a lot of those groups, so you can escalate your privilege due to the fact that somebody misconfigured the group file. So that's how you do privilege escalation for the group file. Hello guys, in this video I'm going to be showing you how you are able to search for files that have a permission of 777 or read, write, and execute. So the way that you could do that, let's say that you are Carlos, right? Let's say who am I? So Carlos, if you say groups for Carlos, you can see that Carlos belongs to Carlos's group, and he also belongs to SSH, which is why we were able to SSH into this machine. But now since you are just a basic user and you want to find files or executables that you basically want to exploit, right? So a really easy way to find files that you can exploit is by using the find command. And the find command, if you do find and then you do the / bottom left top right space, what this is doing is, if you do a find and just this, it is going to look for any file, folders, directory inside your home or in your entire basically drive. It's going to search for everything. But if you go ahead and give it a type of -F, this means that we are only going to be looking for files. Okay, we're not going to be looking for folders, just the specific files that have this permissions that I want to give it. So then, oh, it's not -F, it's just F, and then -perm, meaning that I want to search for this permissions only. So since I don't have access to anything, I want to be searching for 777, which means rewrite and execute for the owner, rewrite and execute for the group, and rewrite and execute for anybody else. And then if you press enter, as you can see, it gives you a lot of errors, or permission deny, permission deny. And one way to clear this up, let's go ahead and do clear. One way to clear this up is by, at the end of this command, you want to do a 2, then you want to do this, and then you want to point it to the TMP null. You don't have access, so we don't have access to this, as you can see right now, because you need to, okay, what if you just point it to that? Okay, let's point it to the home directory. We don't have a home. Let's say home, not home user, home Carlos. Still, Carlos doesn't have a bash. So if you cannot clear this up, let's see if you press enter, they're going to give you an incorrect syntax. So therefore, what we could do is point it to, let's go ahead and before we do that, let's go ahead and do a, basically let's do a touch, and what touch is going to do is going to create a file for you, and we are going to put it in the home Carlos, and inside home Carlos we are going to put just no. So if you do a ls, and if you go to home Carlos, you're going to see that file that we created over here, right? If you do an ls -l, you can see that you have rewrite access to it because we were the one that created it. You can see right now user Carlos and Carlos. Okay, so now if we go back to the command of find and we just point to home Carlos no, there we go. So that way what happens is all the errors that we get when we don't do this, it goes to this file. So if you do cat, let's see, if you do cat home Carlos no, you can see that all the errors that we got when we were doing the find, it just put it there. So therefore what this basically does is just it cleans everything up for us, right? So let's go ahead and do a clear. Okay, and then let's go ahead and execute this again. So again, we are doing the find, and where are we looking? We're looking in the entire directory. We are looking for a type of just files, and the permissions that I want to look for is 777. Again, you can look for any permissions that you want to, but in a specific, you want to look for 777. And then what I want to do is, if we get any errors, I wanted to send it to this file over here that we just created. So press enter, and as you can see right now, we found two files that we have read, write, and execute access for anybody else. So if you do now, to verify this, you do an ls l etc, and then you do a shadow, you can see it right now. It has read, write, and execute access for everybody. For the you can see right here for the user, for the group, which is shadow, and then for everybody else. Okay, and if you also do it for a group, you are going to see that we do have read, write access and read, write, and execute access to it. So that's how you are able to find to look in the entire directory for a type F, which is a file, and with the permission of this. And then if you any errors that we get, we just want to send it over here, so we get a really clear output of what we are looking for, and then we verified with the ls -l. So now in the next video, we are going to exploit the etc shadow. The etc shadow is where Linux stored basically the password of every single user. So we are going to be creating a new password, and we are going to be adding the password there. In this video, we are going to do a privilege escalation on the shadow file, and the shadow file is basically the one that stores password for all the users in a Linux OS. So on the previous video, I showed you how to find those read and write and execute for anybody, and the way that we did that was we're doing a find. We did the entire directory, then we did the type F for file, but then we did the perm, which is the permission, and put 777, and then we said that if we get an error, please send it here. And we got this. As you can see, we have the shadow and also the group files are both rewrite and execute for everybody. So the one that we want to take a look is at the shadow. So let's do an ls -l etc shadow. And as you can see over here, we have rewrite and execute access for anybody. So this command actually worked. So that is that is great. So what we need to do is, if we do a nano, or before we do that, let's go ahead and do a cat to see what we have inside this file. Etsy shadow. So you can see that we have a couple of users that have some we have some passwords in here. As you can see, after the username Miguel, you see that we have a colon to separate the password. So you can see that we have a password right here. Okay, so this is the one that we need to change. If we want to change the password of Miguel for us to be able to remote in, then we need to go ahead and do that over here. Or we can also go ahead and just add a password for the root account. So what we want to do is, we want to first go ahead and create a password. So let's go ahead and do open SSL. Well, let's go ahead and clear this up first. Clear, open SSL, password. Let's go ahead and just say -1, and then we are going to say negative salt. And salt means that salt is basically, let's see if I can explain this better. Salt is like a it's basically like a random data that is used as an additional input to one-way function that hashes data. It could be either a password or a passphrase, and salts are used to, you know, safeguard the passwords in storage. So that's what basically salt is. So we are going to pass it through salt. Salt needs a value. Okay, so let's go ahead and do salt. Let's go ahead and enter the password of hacked123. No, just hacked123. 1, 2, 3. There we go. So here is the password. You can see that we see hacked in here, but we actually, instead of using hacked, I did this wrong. Let's go ahead and do it for this one. Is going to be for Miguel. So let's go ahead and just type Miguel over here, and then we just type the password that we want. We can just type hacked123, and there we go. So this is the password that we're going to replace Miguel's password with. So what we can do now, since we do have write access to the Etsy shadow file, we should be able to go ahead and replace Miguel's password. So let's go ahead and delete all of this all the way to the colon. Did it delete anything? Nope. So we need to, I forgot this is nano, it's not really notepad. So we go all the way down here, and we are going to delete all this, and then we are going to paste the password that we generated. And there we go. So now let's go ahead and do a X, yes, enter. Now if we do a sudo Miguel, let's see if we're able to remote in as Miguel. There we go. So we changed the password. So now since we whatever password we specify over here, it generated this password, and we replace that in the shadow. So if we do a cat Etsy password or Etsy shadow, you can see over here it is still there, the value that we replaced. So we can do the same thing for the root account. So let's go ahead and do exit, and now we are back into Carlos's profile. So let's go ahead and do a clear. So now we need to create one for the, we want to create one for the root account. And the root account, if we do cat Etsy shadow, you're going to see that the root account doesn't have a password right now. So we need to go ahead and create a new password and then just add it right here. So let's go ahead and clear, and let's do open SSL passwd -1. Let's go ahead and give it some salt, and let's just say root, and let's add a password for it. There we go. So whatever you specify over here, it generated this password. So if you, before we do anything, we are going to try to remote in to the root account, see if we have access to it. So root password as you can see, we cannot log into it. So now we are going to do a nano so we can edit the password. Etsy shadow. Did I do something wrong? Okay, it needs to be Etsy. There we go. So now we go over here, we delete that asterisk, and we are going to paste that password in there. There we go. Control X, yes, enter. Now we do sudo root, and we enter that password in there. There we go. So now we are logged in as the root. Great, looking good. So now on the next video, what we are going to be doing is we are going to first let's go ahead and exit out of the root account. Now we are in Carlos accounts. There we go. You can see who am I. You can see it's Carlos. Let's go ahead and do a sudo root and do a who am I as well, so you can see that we are actually in the root account. Who am I? So who am I? And there we go. So we are the root. Great. So now if we do exit to exit out of the root account, and what we want to do is we want to just give it read access to everybody else. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to change the Etsy shadow, and what we want to do is we want to just give read access so we don't have write access, and we are going to remote in as Carlos, and we are going to try to crack the passwords that are in there. So if let's go ahead and just go into the root again. There we go. And now let's do let's see, we can do a nano, or we can just leave the passwords. Let's go ahead and just leave the passwords, and let's just go ahead and do a chmod, and then we are going to specify that the only one that's going to be able to write is going to be the owner, which is the root, and the group is also going to be able to write to it, and then everybody else I just wanted to have read. Let's see, shadow. There we go. So now if we do ls Etsy shadow, there we go. So now you can see right now, let's see, so read, so actually let's go ahead and change that again. We did that wrong. So if we do 441, actually let's go ahead and bring up the, let's see what I did wrong. So if we bring up my cheat sheet, which has the picture that I showed you before, you can see that if we give it, oh, I missed it. So it needs to be 644. I put 441, of course, right? So that is the error that we need to correct, right? In this picture, I'm going to be adding it to the to this course, so you can save it and you can refer to it whenever you have an issue or whenever you want to configure something, so to see if you can try to do a privilege escalation. So let's go ahead and do a ls again, and you can see now that the owner, which is the root, and the group, which is shadow, have read and write access, and then everybody else should only have read access to it. So now if we go ahead and just exit out of the root account, and from Carlos groups, he only let's say Carlos only has access to the Carlos group and to SSH. So now if we do a nano Etsy shadow, and if you try to edit something, like add another asterisk over here and try exit and Y, it won't let you to edit this file because we don't have access anymore. We only have access to see it. But in the next video, since we have access to see it, what we could do is we could get like this hashed password over here, and we can crack it. And when we crack it, we are going to see the plain text password, and we're going to be able to log in as that user. But we are actually going to be doing it for Miguel. Okay, so that's it for this video, guys. I will see you on the next one. Hello guys, in this video we are going to go over how we can do a privilege escalation by looking at the shadow file, and the shadow file is the one that is the file where Linux stores the password, but the passwords are always encrypted or hashed. So we need to go ahead, and if we have read permissions, we should be able to take a look at it, and from there we can copy the hashed passwords for each one of those users, and then we can basically decrypt the password, and we are going to be using hashcat to decrypt the password. So let's go ahead and start. So we can do an ls -l, and we are going to look at etc shadow, and you can see right now that there's a read and write for the root, and read and write for the shadow group, and then read for anybody else. So Carlos should be able to read because Carlos is not the root and it's also not part of the shadow group. We can confirm that by going into groups and going to Carlos. There we go. So Carlos does not have access. He only has access to Association Carlos. So he won't be able to do a read and write, but we should be able to read it, right? So one way to do this is by, if you do a cat, or actually let's just go ahead and do nano. So we can open it with nano, which is a text editor, and just do a shadow. So from over here you can see that we have a couple passwords, and you can see right now it tells you that it is unwritable. We can only see it, but from that we can basically take a look at these passwords. So if we just copy it between this colon and the other column, that's one password, and that's the password for Miguel. So we can copy that, and we can paste it in another text editor. Like for me, I'm using LeafPad, so we can paste it right here. And then this one is for Miguel. If you want to also do the user one, you can go ahead and copy that, and we can go ahead and paste it in the text editor because we are going to be using it. There we go. So now we don't need Carlos because we already know Carlos. So now, since we want to look at Miguel and users, which we got the passwords, we can do a groups, and we can take a look at Miguel and see what Miguel has access to. So you can see that he has access to the root and sudo. So we can go ahead and try to decrypt this password. Let's go ahead and take a look at user and see what he has access to. He doesn't have access to anything, so we don't really need to decrypt his password, but I want to just do it so I can show you guys. Here we go. So now we need to identify what is the encryption method, and for that what you could do is you can go to a web page, and I'm going to leave the link for this web page. So if you copy that password, you're going to be able to know what is the hash that they're using. So for this password, it is using SHA-512 crypt. So we know what we need to use for this, right? And from here you can even just Google search how to decrypt a password that is SHA-512 crypt, and from there you can basically decrypt the password. But we are going to be using hashcat. So since we are going to be using hashcat, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to open a new tab. Let's go ahead and make this bigger so you guys can see it better. There we go. So since we're going to be using hashcat, what I'm going to be doing next is that I'm going to be installing hashcat, and this is my local computer. Okay, this is my remote section to the Ubuntu server. So we can do a sudo apt get install, and we're going to be installing hashcat. You're going to enter the password for your computer. There we go. So it looks like I already have it. So if you don't have it, it's just going to install it, but I already have it installed. So now what I want to do first is that I want to create a file, and then I want to add the passwords to my file. So I'm going to call this, let's just call it hash pass, and then I want to open hash pass, and in here I want to go ahead and paste this 2 passwords that I have, copy it and paste it in here. If you want to, let's go ahead and go to home. Okay, so that is good. We can go ahead and do a Control X and Y, enter. So now if we do a cat hash pass, we are going to see that in here. We can see the hash pass content in here, and those are the password for Miguel, and the other one is for the user that we are going to decrypt. And then after we do that, what we want to do is we want to download basically a password. We want to download a file that has a lot of passwords in it, so we can compare with hashcat, and then we should be able to get a clearer text to it. So before we download that, let's go ahead and create another. I want to create another file, and this one is going to be called output pass. That's what I'm going to be calling it. So that's where we are going to add the output whenever hashcat is done, basically decrypting these passwords. Okay, so that is done. We have 2. We have one that contains the passwords. We have one that is going to contain the output after it is decrypted. Okay, so now we need to go ahead and download the passwords, the password, a text, basically a file that contains a lot of passwords, which we are going to use to basically compare these passwords to, because you do need this. So let's go ahead and paste it over here. I'm going to add this to the description of this video, this command. Press enter. Curl could not be found, so I don't have curl, so let's go ahead and install that. Apt install curl, and if you don't have it, just go ahead and install it, and it's fine. There we go. And a curl, when you do a curl, it's basically going to download that content. Okay, so we are going to do a curl, so it's going to download that content over here, and then we are going to place it in this text down here. And there we go, it has been downloaded. So now if you do basically it is a really heavy file, so if you do ls, you should be able to see it in here. There we go. Okay, and you can see my out pass, and you can see the hash pass as well. So now we can do a clear. So what we're going to do is we are going to do the hashcat. It's going to be hashcat -m. Then we are going to specify we want to use this 1800 -A0 and then O, which is basically going to do the output. So where do we want to put the output? We want to put it in the output pass, right? And then we are going to do a remove. And remove, what we want to basically remove is the, what do we want to remove? We want to remove the hash pass. And then what is the dictionary that we want to use? The one that we downloaded, which is 500 password text. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. We are going to be using hashcat. We are going to be using this. It's basically Unix type 6 password hashed. We are going to use the this meaning, this A0 meaning that we are going to use in a dictionary attack. The -O meaning that we're going to put in the output in this file, and then the remove is basically going to remove each hash that is found, and we are going to be removing it from this file, and we are going to be using this dictionary, this file that contains all the a dictionary basically with a lot of passwords in it. So if we press enter, so we can see that it is now trying to do it. You can see not found. Okay, so let's see what we got. Hashed, recovered 2 out of 2. Okay, so it was cracked. Let's go ahead and take a look at it now. So if we do a cat and we take a look at the output pass, and it tells you right here what is the password. So this one that we cracked, the password is 123456, and also for the user, the password is 123456. So since we cracked this, let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let's go ahead and see if it works. So now we are going to go into the user, which is let's go ahead and sue Miguel 1 2 3 4 5 6, and there we go. So now we are in Miguel's profile. In Miguel's, if you take a look and do a who am I, it tells you that you are Miguel. So you are logged in as Miguel. And if you take a look at the groups again for Miguel, groups, Miguel, not groups with an S, plural. There we go. You can see that Miguel is in the Miguel group, root, ADM, CD-ROM, sudo, dip, plug dev, and LXD. So you can do a lot of stuff with this user. And then the other password, which one was for the user, it has the same, it basically has the same password. So you can go ahead and do a su user 1 2 3 4 5 6, and if we do a who am I, you can see it's the user. If you want to take a look at who this user belongs to, it only belongs to the user. So this one is not going to be useful for you. So the one that you want to use to you know, do whatever you want, because it is part of the root group and also this pseudo group, is Miguel. So that's how you are able to do a privilege attack in the shadow file, if the shadow file is readable to anybody. And so thank you guys for watching. It was a really nice tutorial, and I will see you in the next video. Hello, in this video we are going to go into the SUID, and we need to explain what SUID is so you guys can understand it before we can exploit this, because if you don't understand it, then you won't understand the exploit. So have you ever thought how the non-root user can change his own password when he does not have write permission to the etc shadow file? Isn't it that interesting? Well, if we check basically to understand this trick, we need to check the permission of the user bin password command. If we do that command, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So if you go into the ls-l user bin password, if you go in here, let's go ahead and make this bigger. So this is why everybody is able to change their own password, and this is because we have this S bit right here, and this SS bit means that everybody, or every user, every logged in user, so if since we are logged in as Carlos right now, is able to execute this user bin password, and that's where that's how you can change your password. So they're able to execute. You see right here that it doesn't have an X, it has an S, not an X, and because it has an S, you are able to modify this, and this S means that everybody, or whoever is the logged in user, is going to be able to execute this, therefore change their own password. So if you are logged in as Miguel, Miguel is going to also be able to change their password, because it's basically going to be run as a root, and you know, and also the group root, but the bit is in the user right now because this is the SUID. On another video we are going to go over the group ID, or the GUID, which is basically when you have the bit in the group file right here, in the group position right here. But we are now talking about the SUID, and for this one right here is going to be the SGID. This one is the SUID, right? So that's why they are able to change their password, because you are able to execute this as the root, because it has the S bit. So let's go ahead and go back to the PowerPoint. So, and you can see right here that basically the way it works, that we substitute the X, which means execute, so you're able to rewrite and execute. We substitute this by an S, which is the SUID. So when you substitute that, the X for a S, then that means that everybody else is going to be able to run this as the root or as the owner of the file. So they're going to have root permission to this file. And this is how people can take advantage of this. And you know, the SUID set owner user ID up on execution is a special type of file permissions given to a file. And normally in Linux, Unix, when a program runs, it inherits access permissions from the logged in user, basically. So the SUID is defined as giving temporary permissions to a user to run a program file with the permissions of the file owner rather than the user who runs it. So if you run a file or an executable that has the S bit in it, you are going to be able to run the file as you are the owner, like the root or whoever created this file. So that's what the SUID basically lets you run a file that is not yours, unless you run it as the root, which is really important for you to know. And in simple words, users, we get a file owner's permission as well as the owner UID when executing a file, program, or command. Okay, so if you take a look at this picture again, you can see that we have read, write, and execute access. This one we give a 7. But then what we could do is we can add before the 7, we can add a 4 and then a 7, and then that will give you the RWS, which means read, write, and execute with this user bit right here, which means that everybody in the system, everybody who has an account is going to be able to also run this file or execute this file as the root. And that's how people are able to ping. Ping is another one that has this S bit in it. You are able to change your password, so you're able to do a lot of stuff, and that's how Linux is able to give those other users access to the other files, so they can change your password, do a ping, and do some other stuff. And there are 2 ways that you can do this. So one is the symbolic way. The symbolic way is by doing a chmod u meaning the user, plus s, meaning that you're going to remove the x, and add the s for that file one.txt. And if you want to do a numerical way, which is the way that I like it better because it makes more sense in my head, you can just add a 4 below before you add your other bits. So for this one, it's a 4750. So meaning that we are going to have a 4 over here, then we're going to have a 7. So the 7 means that we are going to be able to rewrite and execute, but since we have the 4 before the 7, we are going to be able to read, write, and the S is going to be added instead of the X. So people are going to be able, any user is going to be able to execute or write or do whatever they need to do on that file, because they're going to be able to open, execute, or run the command as the root of that file. So in the next video, we are going to do an example so you guys can have a better understanding of what I'm talking about, because I mean, we can talk about it for hours if I keep going, but the best way is to just talk about it, and then we can see an example, and that's going to make more sense for you guys. Hello guys, in this video we are going to go over an example for the SUID so you can see how it works. So what we're going to be doing is that we are first going to create a file. The way that you do that, first let's actually go into CD home, and let's go ahead and go into Carlos home. Okay, so we are there, as you know. So in here, what we are going to be doing is that we are going to create a new file. We are going to say touch, and let's go ahead and call it, let's see, SUID. Let's go ahead and do that. Now if we do an ls, you can see the SUID file in that. So now what we want to do is we want to go nano. We want to edit the file SUID. In here we are going to do just an echo, and what we want to do is whenever we execute this this echo, what I want to say is this SUID is working. Okay, let's go ahead and do X, yes, enter. And if you now, what you first need to do is that you want to go ahead and change it and make it an executable. And the way that you do that is by doing a chmod 776, and then we say that we are going to tell it to do the SUID. Now if we do an ls -l SUID file, you can see now that it is an executable. So we have read, write, and execute, read, write, and execute for Carlos, for the user Carlos, and for the group Carlos, and everybody else only is going to be able to read and write. So everybody else is going to be able to read and write to this file. Only Carlos and whoever is in Carlos's group is going to be able to read, write, and execute. So if we do an dot and then a / and we do SUID, you can see that it did the echo. This SUID is working. Okay, great. So now let's go ahead and switch users, and let's go ahead and go to Miguel's 1 2 3 4 5 6, the password, and you can see that we are still in Carlos's home. Great. So if we try to execute this SUID, it says that permission is denied, because if you do an ls -l and you do SUID and you see who has access to this, you can see that Carlos has read, write, and execute access. And then we have Carlos's group as read, write, and execute access, and then everybody else, like Miguel, because Miguel is not in the Carlos's group, they're only going to be able to read and write. So we can still make changes to the file, right? Because if we do a groups and we do Miguel's groups, we can see that Miguel is not in Carlos's group, so we are not able to execute this file. So this is how the SUID comes in handy. Now if we go back, let's go ahead and exit, and let's go back to Carlos's profile. Let's go ahead and clear this out real quick. So now if we go ahead, and Carlos wants everybody to be able to execute this file, so therefore we are going to add the SUID. If you do an ls now, let's go ahead and do an ls SUID now. You can see rewrite, execute, rewrite, execute, and then rewrite. So now if you want to add or change it to add the SUID, so everybody is able to execute this file, you can do a 4775, and then you specify the file that you want to add the SUID for. Done. Now if you do an ls -l SUID, you can see right now it changed to red. It went from green to red. So now you can see that the X was replaced by an S. So the S meaning that everybody, any user, basically any user in this Ubuntu server is going to be able to execute this file. So Miguel, the user, the root, anybody is going to be able to execute as Carlos. So if we go back to Miguel, so Miguel 1 2 3 4 5 6, the password, and now if we do a dot / and we do SUID, there you go. This SUID is working. Remember before we only had the rewrite and execute, and then we changed that to rewrite and S to add that bit in the user group. So now any user is going to be able to execute this because we did that. Let's see if it worked for SUID user. Let's go ahead and go to another user, and let's see what happens. Let's do an ls. Where are we? Yep, we are in Carlos's profile. So if we do SUID, there we go. This SUID is working, and this is for who am I? If we do who am I? User. So as you can see, anybody who has an account in this Ubuntu server is going to be able to execute this file. And on the next videos, I'm going to show you how we can exploit the SUID, because basically it's like giving a 777 permission to a file. If you give a 4775 to a file, you are going to be able to exploit that file because you have root access to the file. So that's what we are going to take a look at, because a lot of people do not know how SUID work, and they are misconfiguring like the password file, and then we are able to exploit. We can also do on nano, we can do on vim, we can do on numerous applications and files and folders that we can basically maneuver. So this is it for this video, and I will see you in the next video where we are going to be exploiting SUID. So in this video we are going to exploit do a privilege escalation with nano, because we found that nano is able to, and we're able to execute nano as a root user from any user. So remember, if we do a ls -l, and if we go to user bin nano, you're going to see right now that it has the S bit. So anybody is going to be able to run nano as a root user. So we are going to use nano to be able to edit we are going to be editing the password file. So since we are going to be doing that, what we could do is we can do a open SSL first, right? And then from here, we are going to just tell it password -1, and we are going to specify the password. We want to change it to, let's just say, hacked 123 again, and that gave me the encrypted hash password. Good. So now we want to insert this into any of those users. So if we do nano etc password, if we go even to the root user, if we go ahead and let's go ahead and do exit, because we didn't copy this. So let's go ahead and copy this and go back to the nano, and if we paste that in here, we are going to be able to log in as a root user. So let's go ahead and do exit, yes, enter. And as you can see, it let me modify this password file because we opened nano, and nano is being run as a root user because of that SUID. So now if we do s root, we are going to be able to log in with the password of hacked 123, and there you go. If we say who am I, it tells you that you are the root. And another one that we found, which is another text editor, was bin. So if we go ahead and let's go ahead and just log out of here first. Let's go ahead and do an exit, so we can go back to manning, clear, and let's do an ls -l user bin. You can see right now, let's see, it should let us. Let me go ahead and run that find command again. So the find command that we ran was find the entire directory for file f perm. It needs to have the S bit in it. And let's go ahead and see if we find vim. So vim is not in here. Well, we have the vim basics. That's the one that we need to get. So let's go ahead and clear this up again. And if we do a ls -l, we go to user bin, and then we paste the nano. Oops, I copy everything. Of course I did. There we go. You can see that we should be able to run vim as a root user. So if you do vim etc password, it is going to let us edit this. So if we do, let's go ahead and do colon W and Q. Let's do it again. WQ. There we go. So now let's go ahead and create. Another password. Let's go ahead and open SSL. Let's go ahead and actually create the same password. Let's just go ahead and copy it, and it's going to be -1 hacked 123. Okay. We can just go ahead and copy this, and what we want to do is we want to go ahead and open vim again, and you want to press the I means that we are going to now insert, and now we don't want to do manning because that's the one that we have. We want to get into Miguel, to Miguel's account. It's going to let us paste. Great. So you want to paste, remember, in the X, you want to substitute the X with the encrypted password that we just ran with OpenSSL. And then what you want to do, you want to do escape from here. Then you want to do a colon W Q and then the exclamation to save it. So it's going to write it and quit. So it's going to save it. Enter. So let's see if it did it. Let's go ahead and do cat etc password. So it didn't make the changes, as you can see. So it is vim basic. Okay, so we have to run the vim basic. That's what it is. Let's go ahead and do a QA. Okay, so it is a vim basic. Okay, so that's what I keep forgetting. Vim basic. So we can just do a clear. And just this is how it goes. You forget what you have access to, but then you remember again, like I did. Password. Let's go ahead and go to Miguel. So it did save it though. Okay, Miguel, but it was saved though. Why didn't I see that? Let's go ahead and do a colon Q. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it again. A cat at the password. Did I miss that? Oh, it is there. So let's see if we are able to log in as Miguel now. Let's go ahead and clear. So Miguel, the password is hacked 123. There we go. So we were able to log in as Miguel now. Who am I? Miguel. Great. So now if we do groups, Miguel, you can see all the access that Miguel has to, and we also have access to the root because we changed the password with nano. And there we go. So now we have root access, and we have access also to Miguel, which is also a root member, is member of the root. So that's how you're able to do a privilege escalation using taking advantage of the SUID, because somebody misconfigured SUID and added SUID for the vim and also for nano. So nano are text editors, and whenever they are run as root, then you are going to, whatever you open is also going to run as root. Just like we open for the password, and also yeah, just for the password. That's what the one that we edited. And if we want to edit other ones, you can edit the shadow one and insert the password in there, or decrypt the password if you want to, and then change the password, do whatever you want to it. You can also edit the group file, the shadow file, the password file. You can edit whatever you want, because nano and vim are running as root user, and since they're running as root users, you are going to be able to edit any of those files and do a privilege escalation from there. In this video, I am going to show you how to find the SUID, and the best way to do that is by doing the find command. So let's go ahead and remote in, and we are going to remote in as Manny, which is a user that I recently was able to get his password. So I have his password. So I don't know what permission Manny has or anything like that. So one of the first thing that I like to do whenever I get a hand of a password is basically try to log in, see if it works, and if it works, I try to see what this user has access to and all that, and then I would like to do the find command to find the SUID. So that's what we're going to be doing. So let's go ahead and SSH with Manny. Great, so the password worked. So I was able to get into Manny. So now let's go ahead and do a groups. Manny. You can see that Manny has access to just Manny's group. So basically probably nothing. And the SSH group as well. So he doesn't have access to anything. So if I want to go ahead and start by finding the SUIDs, is by doing by using the find tool. And the way that you do that is by doing FIND. Then you want to do the /, which is bottom left top right, which means that we're going to find the entire directory. So I want you to look, so find in the entire directory, and what I want you to look is for a, let's see, a negative type. So what file type do you want them to look for? I want to look for a type of F, or just not negative F, which means that we're only going to be looking for files. Okay, and then what permissions do you want to be looking? Well, I want to be looking for negative perm for permissions, and I want to just look for SUIDs. So the way that that we can do that is by doing a negative U equals to S. And then what I want to do, if I want to clear this out, is that if I get any errors, I want you to put it in the temp null. So I don't have any access to the temp. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we can just put it in this null file. I don't have access to this either. So what we could do is we can just go to home and go to many, which I know I'm going to have access to that. There we go. So now you can see that we have found a lot of stuff that have the SUID. So what I'm looking for is something that I can exploit right away. I see Carlos. Remember in the previous video, we did that for Carlos where we did the SUID. It found it. We have less. We can do something with less. We have nano, more. We have the password file, sudo, but this is for the users though. We have the copy one. We have task set 2. So we have some commands that or some files that we can actually exploit. So the first one that I want to do is the nano, right? So since I'm able to run this as a root with SUID, I'm going to be able to change anything I want with nano. So let's go ahead and clear this up for now, and let's go ahead and do an ls -l and paste that path that I have. And we can actually see right here that indeed we have a RWS, which means read write, and any user is going to be able to execute as the root user. So I'm going to be able to use nano to do that. So on the next video, we are going to exploit this server by using nano, because nano, since it's running as a root user, we are going to be able to modify anything because it is going to open any files as a root user. So it's going to have access to all of that. Hello guys, in this video, we are going to do a privilege escalation using the cp command, which is basically the copy command. And the copy command right now, we are able to run it as a SUID, which means that any user in this Ubuntu operating system is going to be able to run the cp command as a root user, and therefore we are going to be able to do root privilege with the cp command. So, and like I said before, for us to be able to look or find any of those files that have the SUID, you can do a find, and then we're going to find or look in the entire directory, and then you can do a perm. We are going to do u equals to s. So if the user has s in it, we want to also look as the type, and it's going to be file type. And then if you do 2, and we are going to just do null just to put it in here. So any errors that we get, just put it in this file. Permission deny the bash. So we're doing a find type of F. So we are getting a permission deny because we shouldn't be putting this over here. What if we put it? Yeah, I always forget to do this. So let's go ahead and put it in the home directory, or manage home directory, and there we go. That will have access, because the reason is because manning doesn't have access to bash or anything else, and I'm so used to just putting it over here or in the temp folder, but since he doesn't have access to it, we won't be able to do that. And here it is, the cp command or the copy command that we want to take a look to do a privilege escalation. So let's go ahead and clear these up. And what we can do ls just to verify the permissions. And there it is. The S was substituted by the X. This means that we are going to be able to run this as the root. So if we do the cp command, we're going to be able to run it as the root. So what I want to do is, I want to first do a nano, or yeah, let's go ahead and do a nano. And what I want to do is we are going to copy the entire file in this root, in the one that we want to replace. So inside right here, let's go ahead and just copy all of that. Then press X, and then after that we are going to create a new file we're going to say nano. We are going to put it in Manny's home directory because he has access to it. So we are going to just go ahead and paste everything in here. There we go. So we have pasted everything. Now we can go ahead and do Control X and then Y to save it, and then let me see, let's try that again. Control X, Y to save it, and we are going to call this passwd. So now if you do an ls, you can see that we have a file that we just created called password, and this one is in the home directory, right? So what we want to do is we are going to create a new user, and we're going to give that user a root privilege, and we need to create a password before we do that. So open SSL and open SSL passwd1, and let's go ahead and just hacked 123 like we have been doing. We can go ahead and copy this command over here, or this password. So now what we're going to be doing is that we are now going to go into nano, and we are going to edit the password file that we have in Manny's home directory, and we want to go ahead and just paste that password right here, and we want to go ahead and copy everything in the root. So we want to just go ahead and copy all of that, go all the way to the bottom, and we are going to paste it in here, and we are just going to create a new user, and we are going to be calling this just new root. That's going to be the username, and the password we just have to replace it with the one that we just created. Copy. Let's go ahead and just paste it in here between the two colons. Oops, I copy it. I wanted to paste it, so copy, go over here, paste it. Great. Let's see. Oh, I pasted it in the wrong spot. Let's go ahead and delete this one right here, root, and put it over here, new root. There we go, just like that. And let's go ahead and remove this password right here. There we go. So this is how it actually needs to look. So root, the password that we just created, then another colon 0 saying that we are the root group, root, and there we go. So then we can just go ahead and delete this one over here. Control X and Y to save it. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to be replacing the etc password file with the file that we have in the home directory. So if we do an ls, this guy right here is going to replace this one in here, because this one right here we just did. If you do a cat's password, we just added this new root, and it's going to give me a root, basically admin credentials. And if you go to cat etc password, you are going to see that this one does not have that new root. So we want to replace this file that we have over here with this file that we just edited, right? And we added the new root in here. And since, let's go ahead and clear this up, and since the CP has admin rights, root access, we are able to do this because for us to be able to edit the etc password file, we have to have root privilege. And since copy command has root privilege, we are going to be able to do this. So the way that you do this, you are going to place our password. So we are going to go from the source, from and to. So from this file that we just edited and we added the new root, we want to then place it in the etc password. There we go, and that was no errors or anything like that. So now if we go to cat etc password, you are going to see that now we see the new root down here. So now we did a privilege escalation. So the way to test this is by doing a su to change the user. So new root, and you enter the password that we just generated or that we encrypted, and there we go. So we were able to log in as new root, user new root. And you can see that it took us to the root user. So if you do a who am I, it's going to say that you are the root, because you're basically taking the root user's home directory and all of that. So we are taking over the root profile by using another username, basically. So we are going to be able to do whatever we want because we now have root privilege. Hello guys, in this video we are going to give you an intro of sudo, even though we have used this command before. But you know, there are basically two ways to run as an admin in Linux, to run applications in Linux as an admin. One is you can either switch to the super user, which is the root, with the SU command or the SUID command, or you can take advantage of the SUDO command, the sudo command, which stands for super user do. And Linux uses the sudo command as a wall basically between normal task and task that admin do, so that you have to confirm that you want to do whatever it is that the command will execute, and that you are authorized to perform that task. And whenever you can either do the SU or the sudo command, and whenever you do the sudo command, which is what we're going to focus on, it basically takes it from the file, which is the sudoers file that we're going to take a look now. So the way to give permission to somebody, so let's go ahead and go to sudo Miguel, since he has root access, so we can take a look at let's do just home. So if we do, let's just do nano. Even though nano is not recommended, the one that's recommended for you to use is the VS or the VISUDO. This is basically a file editor, but what it does is it locks the sudoers file against multiple simultaneous edits, which provides basic sanity checks and check for parse errors. Because if you misconfigure these the sudoers file, you can break the sudo command, right? And if you break the sudo command, what you have to do is you need to reboot your machine and go into the root, and from there you have to boot up as a root, and from there you have to basically fix the sudo command. Okay, so make sure that you use the VISUDO first, since you are starting. If you don't really know how to edit the sudoers file, just make sure that you use the VISUD, which is a file editor that it won't make you, because if you make an error if you're editing with the sudo, what's going to happen is that it won't let you save it. It's going to tell you that you have an error and that you have to fix it. But if you use nano, it won't tell you that you have an error, and then if you save it and if you put something bad, you won't be able to use the sudo command. Just letting you know. So let's just do a cat better. Let's do a cat etc sudoers, and let's take a look at this file. We don't have permission, so we need to use the sudo, of course, and Miguel is able to run this. So here's the file. So inside the file we have this. The first that we can see is the user privilege specification. We can see that the root user has basically access to all, and this first all right here means that indicates that this rule applies to all the hosts. So any host inside this server is going to be able to run the sudo command. And then the second one indicates that the root user can run commands as all users, so he can use any users, right? And then we have the third all right here, and this one indicates that the root user can run commands as all groups. And then we have the last one, which indicates that this rules applies to all the commands. So basically, if you have access to edit this file, and if you give your user this entire command, he's going to have the same privilege as a root user by running the sudo command. And then when we go over here, we have the members of the admin group. So this is by groups. Here is by users. You can edit the users over here. Here you can edit the members of the admin, so you can see what access they have. And if you want to allow members of the group sudo to execute any command, you can see that they have access to execute basically any command. And for the members of the admin group, they are able to, it applies to all hosts, so any host. And this one right here, the second one, means that the admin member is going to be able to run the sudo command from any user. And this one right here means that they have access to all the commands. And for the group, the sudo members right here, you can see that they have the same privilege as the root. Okay, And then you also have a etc sudoers directory down here, and in this directory you can basically create like different files in it, and from that files you can add let's say that you have an IT department, you can create an IT department inside this folder right here, an IT department file, and just give them access to the sudo command from that IT department. If the HR needs also access, you can add an HR department on file, and you can provide the HR department group to the sudo command. And because what this does is it includes this directory. So any files that we add to this directory, it is going to include it in this sudoers file. So on the next video, what we are going to be doing is we are going to be doing some privilege escalation, and we are also going to be editing this sudoers file. Hello guys, in this video we are going to do a privilege escalation for the more command, and the more command is used to view the text files in the command prompt, displaying one screen at a time in case the file is too large, for example the log files. And the more command also allows the user to scroll up and down through the page, and the syntax along with options and command. And you know, another application of more is basically to use it with some other command after a pipe, and when the output is large, we can use more commands to see output one by one. That's when we use the pipe command. And first, the first thing that I want to do is I want to show you how you can verify if your user has access to any of the sudo commands. So if you do sudo -L, so as you can see right now, we don't have any sudo commands, because if you had any sudo commands right now, it will tell you that you have any sudo commands. So Manny does not have any sudo commands, so therefore it doesn't show anything. So what we need to do is we need to basically locate where this sudo command is. So if you do a wish more, and you can see that the more is located over here, the user bin more. So what we are going to be doing is we are going to be adding Manny to be able to execute a sudo command to open more as an admin with a sudo command, basically. So to do that, we need to go as another user who has root access. See if I remember the password. Nope, let's try it again. There we go. CD. Let's clear this. So since Miguel has root access, he's able to edit the sudoers file, which is where you can add commands for users to run as an admin using the sudo command. So if you do sudo nano, and let's go to etc sudoers, so we are going to edit the sudoers, and who needs access to this? It is going to be Manny, the one that's going to need access, and he's going to need access to O equals, and the only one that he's going to be able to run this is going to be as the root user. So what this means is that the first one, right, the first O indicates that this rule applies to all the hosts. So he's going to be able to run this in any of the hosts, and the second one right here means that he's going to run this as a user, as a root user. So therefore, whenever I use a sudo, it is going to be run as a root user. Okay, so that's what it means. And then after that, what you want to put is you want to put the path to what command he needs access to. So he needs access to this user bin more. Okay, so it looks all good. You can just verify, and yep, let's just save it like that. So now when I save this and I log in as Manny is going to be able to run more as a root user using the sudo command. So let's go ahead and do X, yes to modify, enter. Now if I do sudo, well, let's go ahead and remote in as Manny. Clear, cd, clear again. So now also if I do a sudo -L, you can see now that if I verify which sudo commands do I have access to, it only shows one. So the user manning may run the following commands on Ubuntu. So I'm going to be able to run the more command as the root user using sudo. So if I do sudo more and I want to see the var logs syslog sudo more var log syslog. There we go. So I'm able to run it as the root user, but there is a chance for us to do a privilege escalation. So when you see right here, you see right now that it displays the syslog in the command prompt. So from here, what we could do is that if you do a question mark, you can see that it tells you that you can run a shell, a subshell, by using the bang command. So if we use the exclamation right here, we are going to be able to run this as a shell, and it's going to give you root access. So let's go ahead and do a exclamation, and then we are going to do bash, a shebang, and then you're going to press enter. And you can see right now that we are logged in as a root user. And that's how you are able to do privilege escalation with more. All you have to do is display the syslog, do a exclamation, then bash, and that's going to log you in as the root user. And you can verify this by doing a who am I? You are the root user. And you can also do a sudo -l, and you are going to see that the root user may run the following commands on Ubuntu. He's able to run all the commands under all hosts and under all users. So therefore, that's how you do a privilege escalation when somebody gives you sudo access to the more command. Hello, in this video we are going to do privilege escalation using Vim, the file editor Vim. So first I'm going to also walk you through again with we editing the sudoers file. And remember, if you're going to edit the sudoers for the first time, just use the vis sudo, and because that file editor will make sure that you do not break the sudoers. All right, so let's go ahead and do sudo. Oh, before we do that, let's go ahead and see which where is the Vim editor located. You can see it is located here, so we can just go ahead and copy this, and then we can just go do nano or do sudo nano etc sudoers, so we can edit that again. And again, we are going to give the manning to be able to run this. So again, it's going to be able to run it in every host. The root is going to be able to run it as a root, and then we are going to also enter another command, which is no passwd, which means it is not going to ask us for our password whenever we want to run this command. So let's go ahead and paste it over here, making sure that everything looks good, and it does look good. So let me see. Yep, looks good. We can use yes to save it, and then let's go ahead and log in as manning again. We can do, let's just do cd. I like to go to cd, clear this up. And what we are going to be doing is to do sudo -l, and as you can see right now, manning has access to run more with password, and then the Vim editor with no password. So when you do a sudo more, let's do a var log syslog. There you go. So you were able to open that. So if we clear this up, if we run sudo with Vim, it is not going to ask us for the password. It didn't ask us for password because it already did before on the previous video. But if you haven't done it, it was going to ask you for it. But since this is the first time that we run in Vim and it doesn't require a password, it is not going to ask us for the password. So let's go ahead and do sudo Vim, and we are going to open the syslog is fine. So from over here, the way that you do a privilege escalation, from here, manning is a user that doesn't have root access. He only able to run more as with sudo as a root user, and also Vim as a root user. But what we're going to do is we are going to open a shell from Vim, the file editor, and the way that you do that is by doing a colon, and you're going to type shell, S-H-E-L-L, press enter, and you can see right now that we just opened a shell through Vim, because we open Vim as a root user, and then when you open a shell, it is going to open as a root user. If you do a who am I, you are the root user. If you do a sudo L, you can see that this root user has access to basically everything in this system. So we open a shell through Vim, right? So let's go ahead and do exit to exit out of here. We can just go ahead and press Q, colon Q. Let's do colon Q to get out of here. Clear this up. So now I'm going to show you another way that you can do get a shell by using Vim, and the way that you can do that is by using sudo Vim again, and you don't really have to open anything. You can just do the exclamation and sh, and that's going to open another shell, as you can see right now. So if you do a who am I, you are the root. If you do sudo -L, you can see that you are the root, so you have access to everything, because we just did a privilege escalation. So I'll show you two ways to do a privilege escalation with Vim, and this is all for this video. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Hello guys, in this video we are going to do another privilege escalation, because that's what this course is about, just about doing privilege escalation with different tools. In this turn is for less. On Linux system, less is a command that displays file contents or command outputs one page at a time in your terminal, and less is most useful for viewing the content of a large files or the results of commands that produce many lines of output. The content displayed by less can be navigated by entering keyboard shortcuts, right? So and if you want to know more about less, you can also do a man less, which is the manual for less. Another way that you can get, let's see if we can quit out of here. There we go. Another way that you can get more information from less is by doing the help command, and this will tell you how to basically how to use it. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to be, from the main user, we are going to do a privilege escalation through Vim, and then from there we are going to add access to us to less. So the first thing that I want to do is I just want to locate where less is located, right? So if you do which less, we can just copy this right here, and now we are going to do sudo or is it sudo vim -c, and then it was exclamation sh. Yep. Let's see, who am I? Root. Great. So from here we can just go ahead and edit the etc sudoers file. So over here we are going to again add manning to it. It's going to be able to run this in every host. It is going to be run as a root, no password again, and he's going to be able to run the less command. So let's go ahead and do exit, yes to modify, press enter. Great. So now what we are going to do is that we can just exit out of root and go back to manning, right? So I am manning now. So if you do sudo -L, you can see that we now have access to less, because we did a privilege escalation through Vim. We added ourselves to have access to less. So now what we're going to be doing is we are going to do now the privilege escalation basically through using less. So the way that you do this is you open sudo less. We are going to do var log. We are going to open syslog, and from here we are just going to type v, the letter V for Victor, and what that's going to do is it's actually going to open Vim. So we are now in the Vim file editor, and from here we can open a shell. Did I do that correctly? Let's go ahead. It looks like, let's go to Vim. Okay, so the reason why it didn't work was because by default all the files get edited with nano, so we need to go ahead and change that for us to be able to actually use this. So what we need to do is you need to do okay, let's go ahead and do a sudo. Let's go ahead and do, let's see, sudo vim. Let's go ahead and run this privilege escalation again, and we need to do a sudo apt alternatives config editor. So command I found, let's see, sudo apt, no, so sudo update alternatives config editor. So what we need to do is we need to pick which one we want as the default file editor. So we are going to select 3 to select Vim. Great. So now we can just go ahead and exit out of roots. We can do quote q exclamation to get out of here, clear this up. So now we are going to be able to do sudo less var log syslog. Okay, so now since we specify that we want Vim to be our default file editor, if we type the letter lowercase v for Victor, it is going to open in Vim. And guess what? We have opened Vim as a sudo, right? As a root user. So therefore we are going to be able to open the shell. So if we do a colon and you just type shell, guess who you are now? You are the root user. That is great. So let's see, who am I? Root user. The groups that the root user belongs to root. And if you do sudo -l, you can see that he's able to do anything with the sudo command. Great. So I'll show you guys how to do the privilege escalation through less, which less opens the default file editor for Vim, and Vim, it gets open there as a root user, and then from there we were able to open a shell as a root. And since you open a shell as a root, then you have access basically to the entire system. Hello guys, in this video we are going to be doing privilege escalation with the find command. And the find command we have used before to basically find files and to find files with the SUID and also with the SGID. And we did some privilege escalation with SUID and SGID. And we did the find command, you know, to find the files with certain permissions, so we could do privilege escalation from there. But now we are going to just use the find command for us to open basically a shell command as a root user. And the way that we're going to get there, if we do a sudo -l, you can see that we have multiples sudos that we can use, one for Vim, one for less, one for more. So we are going to use more, so we can basically do a privilege escalation to the root. Then we are going to edit the sudoers files. Then we are going to get out of root, and we are going to go back to manning, and then I'm going to show you how to basically do the privilege escalation from the find, which we have not done before. So let's go ahead and do sudo. And we're going to do sudo more, so we can do a privilege escalation from there. And we want to go to var log syslog. And from here, all we have to do is a shebang. So we are going to do a exclamation and then bash, and that's going to open as root. We can go ahead and clear this up. We can do who am I? We can see that we are at the root. So now we can go ahead and do a nano, and we are going to add the etc sudoers. And from here we are just going to add another sudo command for us, many all equals to root. So all the hosts are going to be able to open as a root command, as a root user, passwd : and then this one is going to go to users. This one is the find command. So let's go ahead and just get out of here and don't modify. So let's go ahead and see which one is for the find command. Okay, so it is this one. I just want to verify that. So let's go ahead and go back to nano again. Many root. I don't want him to ask me for password, and we can just go ahead and paste that in here. Great. We can go ahead and just verify everything is good. It looks like I put too many n's for many. There you go. Control X. Yes. Enter. So now we can just go ahead and get out of here. Great. Clear. So now we are many. So now if we do a sudo -L, we can see that we have one more now, which is the find command. And now we are going to do a privilege escalation from the find command, which we have not done before. So the way to do this is to do sudo. And the way this is, we're able to do this is because the find command is able to basically execute commands from it, and that's why we're able to do privilege escalation, because if we execute from the find command using sudo, it's going to open as root. So if you open a shell, it's going to open as root. So if you do find, we can just go ahead and etc passwd. You can open whatever you want. Let's just go ahead and execute this. We're going to open a bin sh, and if you do who am I root. Great. So if you do sudo -L, you're going to see that you're going to have different from the main user, because we are the root user, and now from here we can edit whatever we want from it. So that's how you basically execute or open a shell as a root using the find command. Hello guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to do a privilege escalation if you have sudo, if you can do a sudo with the AWK. And AWK is basically a scripting language used for manipulating data and generating reports. And the AWK command programming language requires no compiling and allows the user to use variables, numeric functions, strings, and logical operators. And this AWK is basically a utility that enables a programmer to write tiny but effective programs in the form of statements that define text patterns that are to be searched for in each line of a document, and the action that is to be taken when a match is found within a line. So what can you do with these AWK operations? You can scan a file line by line. You can split each input line into fields. You can compare input line fields to patterns. You can perform action on matched lines, and also you can do a privilege escalation if you're able to run this scripting language as a root using sudo. So what we're going to be doing first, we are going to use the previous video privilege escalation, since we use find. Let's see if we still have access to find. Sudo -L, and we have it over here. So what we're going to be doing is we are going to do first privilege escalation from find, and then we are going to do the new one, which is the AWK. And before we do that, let's just go ahead and do which AWK, see what it is. Okay, so it is right here. We can just go ahead and copy this, and let's go ahead and do the privilege escalation for the find. So sudo find, and from here you can do find etc password, and then we can execute the command to open a shell. Bin sh. There we go. Who am I? Root. Great. So now from here we can do nano. We can do etc, and then we are going to open the sudoers, and we are going to give us access to the AWK. So many root. I don't want it to ask me for password. And then we can paste the path. There it is. Control. Then we verify that everything is good. Root, no password. This looks good. Save it. Now if we get out of here, scale this up. We can do sudo -l. You're going to see that now we are able to execute this scripting language as a root using sudo, and it's not going to ask us for a password. So now if we do sudo awk, we are going to what we're going to do is we are going to execute a shell from it. So awk begin, all in capital. Let's go ahead and do a quote, single quote, and then curly brackets. And inside of here we're going to say system, and inside of here we're going to do double quotes, bin sh, and we have to close the single quote right here. And there we go. We have the privilege escalation. So who am I? Root. We can do sudo -l. There we go. You can also do a roots. There we go. The root user belongs to the root group. So that's how you're able to do a privilege escalation using the AWK. And remember, again, AWK is a scripting language used for manipulating data and generating reports, but it also lets you run a shell if you have root access to the AWK. So do not give them access to AWK to open it as a root user, because they're going to be able to do a privilege escalation from it. Hello guys, welcome to another video. And in this video, we are going to do privilege escalation from bash. And bash is the shell or the command language interpreter for the Linux operating system. And the name basically comes from Stephen Bourne, which is the author of this scripting of this command language interpreter. So we are going to do a privilege escalation from by having the bin bash sudo. So we are going to be able to open it as a root. So before we do that, I'm going to basically use the AWK privilege escalation, and then I'm going to add the bash from it, just like I have done it in previous video. So if we do wish bash to see where it is located, you can see that it is located right here. We can just go ahead and copy it here, and let's go to the privilege escalation to open the etc sudoers file as a root. So I'm going to do the AWK privilege escalation, AWK, because practice makes perfect. Begin, and we're going to do curly brackets, system, and the system that I want to open, in quotes, double quotes, right, is going to be bin bash. There we go. So who am I? I am the root. So great. So now we can go ahead and edit the etc sudoers. And from over here, we are just going to add manning again, because that's the all in capital. Root. I don't want them to ask me for a password, so no passwd. Let's go ahead and paste over here. We are going to paste the bin bash. So you don't want to give access to anybody to the bash, because they're going to be able, you don't want them to allow access to be able to open this bash as a root user, because they're going to be able to do all sorts of things. They're going to be able to do a script, the way that we are going to be doing, and then they're going to be able to do privilege escalation from it. It's a little bit different the way that I'm doing it than the other ones, because we are going to connect from my local computer, and you guys are going to see this, how it works. So let's go ahead and verify that everything, manning all equals root, no password, user bin bash. It needs to have no password for this to be able to work. So let's go ahead and exit out of here and save it. Now let's go ahead and exit and go back to manning. Manning doesn't really have access to a lot of things, just do a lot of stuff that we can do privilege escalation from it. Because if you do groups manning, he only has access to his own group and SSH. So now since we have access to the bash, what we could do is I'm going to open another tab, and this one is to my local machine. As you can see, we can make this bigger so you can see the command better. So I'm going to basically I'm going to use netcat, and from here we are going to be listening on port 444. So whenever I execute my command, it should work. But before we do that, we're going to do ifconfig and see what we have. What's my IP address? Because I need to use my IP address for this to work, because I'm going to tell it to basically connect to my computer. So clear. Now we can do an nc for ncat, and we are going to be listening in nvlp for port 4444. So we are going to be listening. We are going to wait for my command from here. So if we do we have to do the sudo bash -i equals to the n. We are going to go to dev tcp, and over here I need to add my IP address, and then I need to do the port number that I'm going to be listening on, 0 and 1. And as you can see, I have not executed this before. So what's going to happen is it's going to basically open a connection with my computer with bash using sudo. So as a root user on port 444, which I'm waiting for it right here, still listening. And after I press enter, it is going to connect me to my local computer, as you can see right now. And as a root user, because we did the sudo command. So if I do who am I, you can see that I am the root user. If I do the sudo -l, you can see that I have basically access to the entire computer as the root user. So I can do a lot of damage remotely from my computer, which is in the same network as this virtual machine that we configure on the first video, right? So now I have access to it. So now if I do exit, then we go back, and if we say, let's say port 44445, right, what we need to do over here, we can clear this up. We just need to listen on port 4445, and we go back in here, press enter. There we go. We have received that connection, and you can say, who am I? There it is. I am the root user, so I have access to the entire system to configure and do whatever, all the damage that I really want to do in this system. Hello guys, in this video I'm going to do a privilege escalation with Perl and also with Python. And as you know, Python and Perl are two programming languages that are widely used for numerous of things. Like Python, you can use Python for basically anything, data. You can also, use it for like create a website with Node.js. So they are really good programming languages. So I'm going to do a privilege escalation for both of them. The first one is going to be Python, and the other one is going to be Perl. So before we start, let's go ahead and see what we have access. I still have access to all of them from the previous video. As you can see, we have Vim, less, find, AWK, and bash as well. So I'm going to do a privilege escalation from find, and I'm going to add the Perl, and also, well, first it's going to be Python, and then I'm going to add Perl. So let's go ahead and start with Python. If you want to see where Python is, you can do a wish Python or wish Python 3, because that's the one that is installed in here. So let's go ahead and you can just go ahead and copy this. And then what you want to do is let's go ahead and do a root or privilege escalation with find. So if you do sudo find, let's see, password, then we are going to run execute a command is going to be bin sh. Let's see, who am I? Root. So that's good. So we have done the privilege escalation because we have sudo access to run find as a root. And then what we did was we just ran a we executed this bin sh as a root user, and we were able to get root. So now if we do, let's say nano, if we do nano etc sudoers, from here we are going to edit and we are going to add many. Let's go ahead and make it over here. Root. We are going to specify that we don't want to ask us for any password whenever we do that. Whenever we execute Python 3 as sudo, let's go ahead and press X just to modify. Now we can go ahead and exit out of here. Who am I? Now I'm back to many. Great. So now let's go ahead and do the privilege escalation with Python. So that's what you don't want to use. You don't want to give anybody to run sudo or to run Python with sudo as a root user. You don't want to do that because I'm going to show you why this is the case. So with Python, what you basically want to do, also let's go ahead and verify sudo L, making sure I didn't make any mistakes. And there we go. Python 3 is in here. So what we want to do is that we want to do a sudo Python 3 -c single quotes. We are going to import pty spawn or span right here, and then we want to tell it what we want to run, the commands that we want to run, and it's going to be bin bash. Enter, and there we go. We are the root now. So who am I? Root. So that's why you don't want to give just anybody root access to Python, because you can just do this and do privilege escalation, and from here you're going to be running as a root user, and you're going to basically do whatever you want, right? in this OS now, because you are the root user, so you have permission to do anything on this OS now. So please do not do that. So now let's go ahead and say wish, and we want to do the Perl now, and here's where Perl is. And what we want to do is we want to go ahead and edit the sudoers. And what do we see in here? This is for the root user only. So let's go ahead and do x sudoers etc nano. What if we, let's go ahead and just cd. Let's go ahead and do sudo nano etc sudoers. Okay, here we go. It's not giving me everything. That's what I was like, what's going on over here? So you can see everything now. It was just not displaying the entire page for some reason, but from here we can just go ahead and add manning to it. Root, no password, and then we can paste Perl in here, another programming language. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to give access to any of this just to any users, because they're going to be able to do privilege escalation from this, right? So we are going to now do Perl. We did Python 3, so now let's go ahead and exit, and just to modify it, and let's go ahead and exit out of the root, clear this up. Who am I? Manning sudo L to verify that I have access to do sudo with Perl. Clear this up. So now let's go ahead and do it for Perl. And for Perl, what you want to do is a lot simpler than Python. All you have to do is E. We are going to execute. And what do we want to execute again? The same one. Bin bash. Copied, and let me see. Okay, so we have to close it all the way at the end. Enter. And now if you see, who am I? The root user. So you don't want to give access, sudo access, or to do the sudo command to open Perl as a root user. You don't want to do that. Also, you don't want to do that for Python 3. You don't want to do that for Vim. You don't want to do that for Nano. You don't want to do that for What was the other one? The other ones were less, more, fine, AWK. You do not want to do that, because they're going to be able to do privilege escalation, and they're going to be able to configure or misconfigure this OS, or add a new user as a root user, and you are going to be in trouble if this happens. So please do not give sudo access to Perl or to Python or to Find or to AWK. You have to make sure that you're not giving access to people to this to execute this commands as a root user. Hello guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to basically create a bash file so we can do some privilege escalation from it. And right now, if we do sudo cancel sudo L to list what we have access for the sudo to run as a root user with no password, we have only the user being bash. So we are going to do a different privilege escalation that we have done before. We are going to basically create a file and we are going to add some commands to it to run as a root inside bash. So the way that we're going to do this, we are going to, if you want to know where you are, you can do a pwd and it tells you where you are. You are in many home, so that's where you are. So we do have access to it. So let's go ahead and clear this up. Clear. There we go. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and create a bash. In this file that we want to create, we can just call it priv.sh. And inside right here, the first thing that we need to do is we need to specify that we want to open this with bash. So we do like this, bin bash. So now inside right here, we can put any commands that we want to run. So any of the commands that we can run from the CLI, we are going to be able to run it from here. And since we have access to run bash as a super user, we are going to basically do any commands that we want, and it is going to be run as a super user, as a sudo, right, as a root user. So the one that I want to do, it is going to, I just want to do an echo, and what I want to echo in here, I want to add, so we are going to be modifying the password file, and we are going to add a new root user to it. So if you don't know what is in the etc password file, you can always just go ahead and Google that. So if you do like a etc file, what's inside, there's a lot of websites that will tell you what is inside there, like this one in here in particular. So this one tells you what the password contains. So in the previous video, we were able to modify one of those. I think in a couple of videos we were able to basically modify the etc password, and we added a new root user with a password that we use through basically through OpenSSL. So we are going to basically do the same thing in this video. So we are going to echo something. It's going to be a string, and it is going to be basically to create any user to it. So let me go ahead and see if I can find one for you that basically tells you what is inside it. See if I can, maybe I can see a picture. There we go. If you look at the pictures, see if I can find a good one for us. So, okay, so this one right here. Let's go ahead and just open this up. Takes you to this website. So here's what is inside the etc password. So what we're going to we are going to be echoing a new line, and we are going to just say new root, and we are going to add the same thing that this root user has, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So we want to echo. What do we want to echo? We want to actually add a new root, which is going to be the username And before we do that, I always forget to do that. Let's go ahead and do node modify. We need to do it first. Open SSO to get an encrypted password. -1, and let's just say that the password is going to be 123, or let's just say hacked 123. That's what I want my password to be. So let's go ahead and just copy this because we need to add this. So then we can do a nano priv, and let's go ahead and do bin bash, and we are going to be echoing. What do we want to echo? Single quotes. We want to say that we want to add a new root. That's going to be the username, and then we are going to the first. Remember, in the first, between the first two columns is going to be my password. So let me just go ahead and paste my password in here, and then we have the user ID. Then we have the group ID, which is going to be for the root. Then I want to specify the root. Right? Let me verify this. Yep. Then we want to add root again over here, and then at the end, we are going to go to bin bash, right? And where do you want to send it? Well, I want to send it to Etsy password, right? X, yes, to save it. So that has been saved. We do an ls, it is in there. But first, we need to make this an executable for us to be able to execute this. So we can just 775 should be good. priv.sh. So now we do an ls -l. And if you specify which file, it will tell you that we have access to run this, to execute this. So now, since we do have, we can do again the sudo l, and this is a bash. So since we have access to run the bash as a root user, we are going to be able to execute this. And when we execute this, inside here, if we do a cat priv, what's going to happen is it is going to echo this to the new password, and we are going to be able to log in as a new with this username, new root, and it's going to give us a, basically we are going to log in as a root. So let's go ahead and clear this up. So now you want to do sudo bash because we do have access to this, and then we want to do priv.sh. So that has been done. Well, it wasn't executed because I did a mistake. Let's go ahead and go back to nano priv.sh. And after you do echo, what it did was it just echoed this. So it printed this into my command line. But what I want to do, I want to insert. Make sure that you do two of this. If you only do one, it is going to basically delete everything, and it's going to just add my line. So if you do both of them, it is just going to insert. Okay, if you do one, it is going to replace everything. And if you do two, it is going to just insert. Yes. Let's go ahead and run it again. Okay, so now it didn't echo, it didn't print. And it didn't print this into my command line. So now if we do a su, and if you log in as a new root, and we log in with the hacked 123, there we go, we were able to log in as a root user. So that's why it is not a good idea at all to give somebody access to run bash as a root user, because they're going to be able to, you know, create a file like this, like I just did, and they are going to be able to do privilege escalation just like I did. If you do who am I, the root, and if you do groups root, you can see that he belongs to the root group. Also, if you do a sudo l, you can see that he has access to run as a root user in every single one of the hosts, any user, you know, anything, and he is able to run every single command. So you don't want to give just any user, a regular user, to be able to run bash as a root user, because this is what it is going to happen to you. Hello guys, in this video we are going to go over SUID SED, and SED is basically a stream editor, and it's one of the most prominent text processing utilities in Linux. It is similar to many other Linux utilities, but it is stream oriented and uses simple programming language. You know, it is capable of solving complex text processing tasks within a few lines of codes. And this easy yet powerful utility makes Linux more interesting. So I'm going to show you how SUID works, and how we can use it to do a privilege escalation. The first one is that let's go ahead and create a new file. We are just going to new, and in this file we are going to echo, let's say, hello friends. And we are going to echo that to the new file. So now if you go ahead and read the new file, it is going to say hello friends in there, right? So SED or SED is able to do the same thing that cat does. If you do a SED new, it is going to give you the same line as you can see over here. And SED is located, if you do which SED, you can see that it is located in the user bin SED directory. And there's you can also from SED you could replace basically text in there. Let's go ahead and add let's go ahead and just replace a text we said. So we said that if we do a SED two single quotes, and then we give it the file name, it displays the text inside that file, just the same as cat, right? But we can also replace text in here. So if you do a SED -I, and if you do double single quotes, and then you put S for basically the source, and what you want to replace, you're going to put in here. So we are going to replace hello friends. And what do we want to replace it with? We want to replace it with by friends. And to end it, you're going to put a G at the end, and you also need to put this bottom left, top right, just the same as we did over here. So what is going to happen is SED, it is going to replace the text inside this new file. Let's go ahead and put specify the file so we don't forget. So what's going to happen is that SED is going to replace, it's going to read this file, and it's going to search for this source, and it's going to replace it with this text over here. So let's go ahead and press enter. And now if we do SED and we say new, you can see now that it was replaced by friends. So that is a way that you can use SED, is that you can replace text inside a file. So what can you do if you have, let's say, sudo access or access to run this as a super user or a root? What you could do is you can replace the new user and replace it with a password, or you can just replace the root and add a password to it so you can log into it. You can also replace one of the usernames and add a password to it. So you can do a lot of stuff. You can also replace let's say that the root from the sudoers, you can just add yourself to it so you can have root access to the system. You can do a lot of stuff with SED if you have root access, and that's when privilege escalation comes into place. So that's what we are going to be focusing on the next video. We are basically going to do a privilege escalation with let's say we are going to use Python to do a privilege escalation to get access to root. Then we are going to basically add this file so we can to the sudo, so the user many is able to run it as a root, and from there we are going to do basically a privilege escalation with SED if we have root access to it. Hello guys, in this video we are going to do two privilege escalation. The first one is going to be Python 3, which we have done before, but practice makes perfect. And then after that we are going to add ourselves as a root user to the SED file so we can run SED as a root user, and then we are going to do another privilege escalation using SED. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start with this. Let's see if we do have access to Python 3 as a root user, and yes we do. So we are going to be doing that privilege escalation with Python. And I know that I have done this before, but like I said before, practice makes perfect. So we have to keep practicing our command. So let's go ahead and do sudo python 3. We are going to do a C, double single quotes. We are going to import. What are we going to import? pty again, spawn. And what do we want to spawn? It's going to be the command of bin bash. There we go, and that should do it. Run syntax. So let's take a look at that, and that's why you need to practice this. So we have import pty colon pty. This, so python sudo python 3 -c, I import pty colon pty bin bash. So in the pty, that's what it's telling me that there is something wrong. So pty, okay, I forgot to add the n. And let's go ahead and remove. Still telling me pty, import pty dot spawn bin bash and this is with python 3. pty, so let's see, 1 2 3 4 5 6. Yeah, why is it shouldn't be asking me for password? Because we have it's python 3 -c. Let's go one by one. Single import pty. Oh, there we go. It has to be, it can be a colon, and there we go. So now we have root. If we do id, we have root. Why am I root clear? We can do wish SED. Okay, so we are going to just go ahead and copy this, and we are going to edit the sudoers. Sudo, you're going to move into sudo nano etc sudoers. Let's go ahead and go all the way down here. We can go ahead and do many all root. I don't want it to ask me for password, just to save 2 seconds. And let's go ahead and paste that in here. Great. Let's go ahead and Control X, Y to save it. Now we can go ahead and get out of root. Clear this up. So now what we could do is we can do sudo SED, and if you want to see the content, let's say of the etc password, we are going to be able to do that. So that's great. So let's go ahead and see. We want to replace, let's see, the root. So I want to gain root access to it. So what I want to do is, before we do that, let's go ahead and do open SSL to create a new password. -I, let's say hacked 1 2 3 password, open SSL, that's -1. There we go. So we are going to have that in here. So we are going to say that what we want to do is we want to replace this text with something else that has a password to it. So the way that we can do that is that we can do it sudo -I, and then we are going to do double single quotes, the source. It's going to be let's see, okay, so we need to put in here this one in here. So the root, copy, we are going to paste it in here. So we want to do is we want to replace this with, we are going to paste it again, but we are going to add a password to it. So we need to remove the X and add the password that we just created. Great, so that is good. So then at the end, we want to go ahead and do a /g, and then we want to specify the etc password. No such file in the directory. So let's see. So G. So which one? It is taking the G. So we want to replace. Let's see. What we could do is, instead of all of this, let's see, root with this. Let's just say that we want to replace just this text over here. We want to replace this bin bash. So what we're going to be replacing is going to be the root, the x, the root, the colon x colon, which is where the password is. I want to replace it with a root colon, the password, and then another colon, and that should do it. And it's just saying no etc password, no file in this directory. Let's take a look at that. S root. Then we're going for the root. Oh, okay, sudo SED. Oh, you got to put SED. And then say no such directory, and there we go. So here's what you need to do. Sorry for that. So at first I forgot to put the SED, the utility that we wanted to run. And then I put an extra backslash over here, so we don't want to do that. So this is how you want to actually do it. Okay, so now if we do a sudo SED and we put etc, so we can basically do a cat, and we scroll up, you can see now that the root has the password that we just created. So we changed the password for the root user. So now we should be able to gain access to it. So if you do su root and you enter hacked 123, there we go. Now we have access to the root user. So you can do this with any of the text in here. You can just replace whatever you want with it. And what we did was we just replaced, we added a password to it, because the root in this system doesn't have a password. So we just created a password with OpenSSL and replace it using sudo SED, because it is running as a root user. So you don't want to give anybody sudo access to the SED, because they're going to be able to do the same thing that we just did. Hello guys, in this video we are going to go over cron tab, and cron tab is basically like the task scheduler in Windows, in a Windows device. And cron tab is a long running process that executes commands at specific dates and times, and you can use this to schedule activities, either as one-time events or recurring tasks. Like if you want to do a backup every day at 1 a.m. You can schedule that. You can create a script to do the backup, and then you can add that to the cron tab. So it is a really useful utility in Linux. So if you know how to use it, and if you know how to use it correctly, you should be fine. But if you do not know how to use it and you configure this, if you not configure this correctly, you are going to users are going to be able to do privilege escalation and gain root access to your system, basically. So what we are going to be doing in this video is that since you already know, because I said what cron tab is. It's a task scheduler. What we're going to do is we are going to make a directory. We are going to then create a executable, so we can execute that every minute, and you guys are going to see that. And after you see that it is executed, we are going to do a privilege escalation, but that's going to be on the next video. We are going to do the privilege escalation, but in this video we are basically going to configure or misconfigure cron tab, so you can so you don't do this, right? So I am as the root user right now. So let's say that you are the root user and you want to create some task. So let's go ahead and create a directory, and we are just going to call it tasks. And let's go ahead and go inside tasks, make directory cd that did I not? Oh, sorry for that. I named it TAKS. I guess that's not good. Let's go ahead and remove it. RMDDK. There we go. So now let's go ahead and create it and name it correctly. TASKS. So we are going to go inside tasks. And inside of here, what we're going to be doing is we are going to do a nano. And we are going to just create tasks. Let's say task number 1.sh. So we can run it. And we're going to create basically a bash script in here. Let's call it bin bash. And all I wanted to do is to do echo I love you. So every minute we're going to schedule a task just to tell us that I love you, right? So that's what's going to be doing. So that's do Control X and then Y to save it. So now since we want to make it an executable, what we want to do is a chmod and let's just do 4777. So here's when the issue happens. So whenever a root user doesn't know how to use chmod and doesn't know what the issue is when you misconfigure these permissions, that's when the issue happens. So right now we are going to provide basically they're going to be able to execute this file, and they're also any user is going to be able to run it as a root user, like you learned previously. On the previous video we went over SUIDs, and we also went over the misconfigure permissions, and we are using both of them at the same time, but that's fine. And let's go ahead and do task 1.sh. So now if we do ls -l task, you can see that everybody has read and write access to it, and you can see the S bit in here. The SUID means that anybody's going to be able to run this as a basically as a root user, but we don't even have to do that far. Let's say that they don't even know that bit. They can just do a 777, which also would do the same. So now it means that the root user is going to be able to rewrite and execute, and whoever's in the group root is going to be able to read, write, and execute, and anybody else is going to be able to rewrite and execute. And we don't even need to do that. We can just do a, let's say 7775. So that's just execute. Let's just say 776. What that gives you read and write. So that's what's going to happen is that if we do a 776, the root is going to be able to rewrite and execute. The root group is going to be able to rewrite and execute, and everybody else is going to be able to just read and write. But still, people are going to be able to add whatever they want to it, and that's what is going to happen. So let's go ahead and clear this. Now we are going to go into the Chrome tab, so we can execute this every minute. So we are going to basically schedule this to run every minute. Right, so we wanted to tell us every minute. So in here's the Chrome tab. Here's how you can schedule. The first one gives you the example of the job definition. The other one is the minutes. Then we have the hour, the day of the month, the month that you want to execute, or the date of the week too. But what we're going to be doing is that we want to run this every minute. So we are going to put 1 right here to tell it that it's going to be basically every minute. And then if we go make it over here, the asterisk means that we're not using this. So we're not going to use the day of the week, the month, the month. We are not going to use the day of the month. We're not using the hour. We are just using the minute, as you can see right here, which we put every minute. And then we want to execute this as the root user, of course. And then we want to go into tabs, or we name this task, and then inside task it is called the task 1.sh, right? So what's going to happen is we are going to run this file every minute with Chrome tab. So you can do Control X, and actually let's go ahead and do cancel. We need to put it as a that and this backslash, and we need to make this an executable. So I forgot. Well, I did make it an executable already. So we don't need to do that. So let's go ahead and do Control X and Y to save it, and there we go. So now what's going to happen if you do a grep cron, so we can see the log. You can go to var log syslog, and inside right here we can see that if you get this error, let's see, if you get this error right here that it says no mta install this current output, that means is that you need to install the postfix. And the postfix is a free and open source mail transfer agent that routes and delivers electronic mail. So we need to install postfix for us to be able to execute this, and that's why we are getting that error. So if you get that error, what we need to do is that we need to do a sudo. You need to do this from the root apt get install, and you need to install post fix, and it's going to install postfix. It doesn't take that long. Come on, you can do it. So there you go. So it has been installed. So if you want to just since I had it before, this is why it probably didn't go through, but if it goes through and it brings up a window, just select yes, and then you want to just install it locally. So if you want to just reload this, that's fine. You don't really need to do that. It didn't ask me for where I needed to install it, because I already installed it already, and I just like uninstall it and reinstall it again, but it saved my settings. So if it asks you for the settings, just say that you wanted to install it locally, and that should basically do it. So now if you do, let's say, now what we need to do basically is that we just need to wait. Let me see if I did this correctly. Task sh. So let's go ahead and see if it works. We can just run it from here. You can see that it says I love you, and when it says that you have mail, that means that your task in the cron tab was executed. So if you see that you have mail, and if you want to see it, you have to go over here. What you need to do is go nano var mail root. Let's see, and inside right here, you can see it right now, it is working. So the I love you is working. So there we go. Every minute it is going to tell you I love you. So now what we are going to be doing in the next video, I'm going to show you how we can do a privilege escalation based on this error or this misconfiguration of the cron tab. So in this video, we are going to basically do a privilege escalation through the cron tab that we misconfigured on the previous video. If you haven't watched that video, please go ahead and watch it. So we did all of that. So now if you're looking for privilege escalation and you have nothing else, you can always look at the cron tab, which is read for anybody. You can read it. So if you do an Etsy and we just do cron tab from over here, you're going to notice, and you can see that I am logged in as Manning, and Manning doesn't have any access. It doesn't have any root access, because if you do a groups and if you type Manning, you can see all he has access is basically to the Manning group and SSH, so nothing. So what we're going to be doing, so we go to the nano, we go to the cron tab, and we can see that we can see some stuff that are running daily, weekly, monthly, hourly. But then we see this one right here, which is running every minute as a root user, and you see this one was you can see that it was manually configured, right? So what you could do is you look at it, you're like, oh, let me go and see what I'm able to do to this executable, right? So let's go ahead and exit, and we can do an ls, and we can see that directory right here, task. So if we go to cd and we go to task, inside of here, oh, here it is, and it is green. So that means if you do task, in here we can see that the root user is able to rewrite and execute, the root group is able to rewrite and execute, and anybody else is able to read and write. So I cannot execute it myself, but I can write to it. So that means if you do a nano, and we go to task, task, let me see, oops, just task that one, sh. Oh, this is what it does. It just echoes, I love you, huh? And this is going to be running as a root user. Wow, okay, so I can just delete this and do a chmod, and I can just do a 4777 to the etc password file, and do Control X, yes, and you can save it. So if you do cat task 1, you can see that it was saved. Okay, so that's going to be running, let's see, it's going to be running what, every minute. So all we have to do is we just have to wait a minute, and what's going to happen is that it is going to change the permissions for anybody to be able to rewrite and execute to it, because I'm going to be changing that. So let's go ahead and wait a minute, and we're going to see if we're actually going to change the etc password to a rewrite and execute for anybody. So let's go ahead and pause this video and just wait for it. So now we have waited a minute. So we are not going to get that you got a mail. The root user is the one that's going to get that, because the Chrome tab is and that task is for the root user. So we're not going to see that in Manning. All we have to do is just wait, making sure that you actually wait a minute, and then if we do it clear, and since we're doing a chmod to 4777 to the etc password, if we do it clear, and then we do an ls l etc passwd, and there we go. It was changed to rewrite and execute for anybody, and also we got the sticky bit, so we're going to be able to run this as a root user. Wow, that is great. So guess what can we do from here? Let's go ahead and do an open SSL, phwd -1, let's say hacked 123, so we can create our password, right? We have done this a lot of times on this course, so creating the password. So now we can go ahead and do a nano etc, and we go to password. So inside here, what we're going to be doing is, let's just go ahead and create, look at that, we still have that new root from the previous video. Let's go ahead and create a let's go ahead and create a user, the best root, that's what we're going to call it. So we are going to paste our password in here, put another colon, and then we are just going to copy all the credentials or all the access that the root has, and we are going to just go over here and paste it. There we go. So now this guy right here, the best root, it is going to have a password hacked 123, and we are going to have access to the root user. So let's go ahead and do Control X and yes to save it. Now if we do a su the best root password hacked 123, look at that ID, we are the root. Who am I? We are the root. Groups for the root, we are the root user. So now we have full control access to this VM machine. So now I can do whatever I want, right? I have full access to this machine. So that's how you are able to basically do a privilege escalation for a misconfigured cron tab using a executable that was misconfigured with bad permissions, basically. So that's one way to do it. Another way that you could do it, we edit that bash file, that executable, just to give us access to the password file. You can just tell it what you could do instead of just doing this, or if you can do this, and then you can do another one where you can add, you can just add a string to the password file, and add in a new user with root access. You can do that. You can just open Vin as a root user as well from the bash script. So you can do a lot of stuff. Also, if the etc cron tab file has read-write access for anybody else. You can configure whatever you want and run it as a root from there, and just wait. If you configure for a minute, you can just wait for a minute, and then that should work. So you can do a lot of stuff from the misconfigure a script or file in the Chrome tab, or misconfigure Chrome tab. So that's how you get it done.